just missing one. So. We ready? Where? Thank you. October 19th. Don't forget. The next meeting.
Seven.
No.
7.
All right, approval of the agenda. I think we have one change. Which one, Jason? A under zoning is not going to be done.
Correct. 6A and it is, we'll still have to open it up, Chair, but we'll just postpone it.
Oh, okay.
And it won't be to a date certain because I don't know when they're gonna get through the town board. And that's what then we'll just have to re-advertise.
Okay, what gets through the town? All
I
right.
apologize. I got the minutes from the town of Bowling Lake on it. And they approved liquor license. I think it was a Class B license for the winery. But then the town chair called me when we took and sent out the notices and said, no, we haven't approved the zoning change. So it's kind of a little bit different that they approved the license and that before the zoning. So that was my bad.
So with that. Change, I would make a entertaining motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the amended with the changes.
Any other changes or not? We should be all right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Approval of our minute. 7.
I make a motion, we approve the minutes.
I'll second
Okay. Last committee member shows up. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Okay. None. Public comment. Do we have anybody here for public?
I am.
Doug is good. You are? Yes. Nope.
No,
He back. He doesn't.
Oh,
So state your name.
okay, I'm Dawn Albright.
Okay.
Want me to stand here?
You can stand there or the podium, either one.
My name's Dawn Albright and I own Serendipity Lodge, which is a tourist grooming house. And I'm here because based on a wrong interpretation of the provisional law in regards to the ordinance, my husband and I lost over $16,000 in 1 month, or in the amount of time that we were told we needed to not have our permit. The reason we lost our permit is because when we bought this tourist grooming house, we were told it sleeps 13 or 11. And so that's what I had. I tried looking up our permit online and I couldn't find it. When I went to the zoning office after they sent me a cease and desist letter, I was told, well, yeah, you probably can't find it because you have to put these letters up front first. That's not clear. And that should be clear. Our license was only for 8 people. And I know that probably, maybe some of you have driven 56 in a 55. That's breaking the law, I guess. And I would think, or I would hope that you would get a warning and say, hey, you know, this isn't right. So I think you need to readjust. As soon as I got that letter, I was mortified. I changed everything right away. I went in very next day and just said, what is this? I don't know. I was devastated, obviously, and I was just shut down immediately. And I went to numerous people to talk about it. I didn't get the appropriate, there should have been, if you're gonna give me a cease and desist and choose and pick which way you want to go in regards to the provisional law or administrative provisions, which is procedural law, then you need to do it correctly. I didn't get a 30-day stay. If I would have gotten a 30-day stay, then in that time frame, my information would have been given to the proper, or the people that interpret the law, and we wouldn't have lost all that money, but we weren't given that opportunity. 20 days after I was given a cease and desist, they said, oh, yeah, that's right. You can reapply right away. I had done that. I wouldn't have lost the secured $16,198 that we lost with the potential of $45,000 that we lost in our small business. And I don't think other small businesses, like the bars in town, I mean, that's a big hit. Maybe it's not a big hit for them, but it's a big hit to us. And we bring a lot of money. Is that my time?
You have much more?
No. Okay, thank you. So I guess I just want to say not every tourist rooming house has problems, and I understand that some do. I live on a small private lake that doesn't even have a public access. We're the only people on the lake usually, and we have 225 feet of shoreline, and we use about 20. All the rest is like weeds and trees because frankly, my husband doesn't want to mow it, and neither do I, and it's just natural. So we have the dock, a little spot for the little kids to walk down. So I guess I just really want you to really consider when you're looking at tourist rooming houses, really look at them on each person and on each spot, because our property is basically for quilters, scrapbookers, and multi-generational families where grandma and grandpa bring the grandkids come and have a little vacation. And it's not hurting anybody. But the decisions that were made here that were wrong really hurt us. So I want you to really consider that.
What township are you in?
I'm Eureka.
In Eureka, okay.
It's on Big Lake, but it's also called Center Lake. I don't know why that's two names, but it's happening.
All right, thank you. All right, anyone else? Don't have anybody in the other room? All right, then we will close public. Do we have any other supervisors? No, we do not. So then, Jason, let's open the, well, we gotta wait till 9:15.
Mower,
Mow.
Worcester.
6 minutes?
What's that?
Can you do it in 6?
Do it in one.
You got 6 or 5, we'll give you 5.
Morning, everyone. Just a quick update on Parks and Trails. Most of this you heard last night. Trade Lake boat landing, we completed the paving of that, the asphalt paving on the lot up on top. So that's really a big one. So that's looking really nice. D.D. Kennedy and Lotus Lake. D.D. Kennedy, the playground equipment was installed on Monday. Lotus Lake was Tuesday. We still have to do the flooring for them. Summers Lake, we did have 6 equestrian parking spots for trailers and stuff, and that's looking really nice. We still have 3 culverts to install up there. We're waiting on permits up there. The Woodley parking lot is scheduled for mid-October to go in. We did find an issue. We have to cap up there from the old buildings. Naturally, we found those septic tanks in the old buildings naturally, so that's what monkey wrench in it. So we'll abandon those in place on those. Horses on the Stour, October 1st, the first Friday before rifle season is starting up. So we'll be monitoring that trail a couple times a week for horse droppings. Make sure that I clutter the trail, doing those things. The Sawmill Trail, the RFP between Clayton and Clear Lake. The logger will be in there to start removing trees on the edge of that trail in October here. And then that has to do with some graveling also. And we do have a grant for that of $84,000. The bid came in, I believe, at 60-some thousand. We do have some savings there where we could do some extra work within that corridor. With approval from DNR. That's kind of a quick update on there. We're moving forward, trying to winterize stuff. Campground's going to close here shortly, October 15th. We had an online demonstration on reservation systems for that people go online. You can see the campground. They click on it, reserve it online, pay for it online. We're looking at that system there. It's about 12 to 15,000 to implement and get that online. But that we can also look at doing the trail passes for all the trails on that also. So when someone goes in that camp, we can bring up the map and say spot 1, 2, and 3 are booked. We see someone in site 5, we know they didn't pay. Had a lot of trouble this season with squatters and trying to get them out of there. And with that, we can also tack on a rules and policy terms and conditions say that if they leave excessive garbage in the campgrounds, we can go back and charge their credit card. Or the pickup and disposal, that stuff. So we're trying to get that cleaned up and yeah, things also. That's the latest and greatest.
The bathrooms out at TB Kennedy,
Yes,
what's the time frame for those
honestly, that's gonna be next year.
next year?
We did not get any replies from our RFPs. We're waiting on a couple, we reached out to a couple contractors and get some estimates to see what they could do, including upcut. So we're still waiting on that. We did order our supplies for the warming area for the cross-country skiers that's gonna go on the edge of our property. That should be built yet this fall, with the fire pit, fire ring for them and that. We did order those supplies, so that's scheduled to go in the next, month or so.
Okay. Go ahead, Doug.
One comment. We drove down to Apple River Park. And that was when I think he brought it there on the inside.
Yep.
And what a mess. And then he just left, I think, with all the mattresses, all that stuff. It was all cleaned up. After
Yep, we cleaned it up. We have a paddle boat. And some other stuff was left behind, so. It's been a struggle to change that culture of who's there and, making sure that the people there are paying.
Last night, we got our playground equipment, as mentioned, right?
Yes.
Installed.
The playground equipment is installed. The rubber matting at TD Kennedy is not poured yet. The ones at Lotus will be, mulch. I have some pictures of it just installed with caution tape around it, but I wanted to wait till the matting came down and get a little better picture of it. So that's going up, and then we have 5 cameras going up at TD Kennedy to monitor that. Sorry.
Could you let Tracy know when it's done? Probably she'd like to be the first one down the slide.
Yeah.
I thought you were
I'm
already.
gonna take his grandson down there so he can experience it just once in his young life. Just once.
All right, any other comments or questions?
I
Thank
need to
you.
move over a little.
Thank you. Just a shout out for Bob, and we've had a good collaboration working together on planning these projects and implementing these things. So, and that's ongoing. So, got a good thing going on. So thanks, Bob.
Thank
No, I and T.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
All right, thank you. All right.
All right, so should we open the one for the rezone in Bone Lake?
Yes, let's open that one up first.
Chris and she Wolchuk request a rezone from residential Ag 5 to agricultural 10, Ag 10 for a property located at 2896 90th Street, located in section 10, town 36 north, range of 16 west, town of Bone Lake. The parcel number is 012-00185-0000. That's a 40-acre parcel. And the reason for our recommendation to postpone it is because the town of Bone Lake board minutes from May 19th was only approving their liquor license for the winery, and it wasn't approving the actual rezone from RA 5 to A 10. And if they don't approve it at the town level, we can't even consider it at the county level. So right now, in that, there's no action that we can take other than just postponing.
Okay, we're not sure when that's going through, so we can postpone it, what, like up to a year?
I talked to Chairman Andy Brown, and he said that they were gonna put them on their October agenda. So hopefully this is October, or November, you know,
So
so,
it'll still probably happen this year.
yep.
Do you think we should put a timeline like a year or 6 months on it?
I don't think it'll be.
It wouldn't be any issue.
not just formality.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion on this one to postpone.
I'll make a motion to postpone.
Brad, is there a second? Any questions, anyone? It's pretty straightforward. So there's any, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, this one will be postponed. All right, so we'll close that one and open up the next one.
The next hearing is for Eric Gutierrez. And that he requests a conditional use permit to be able to operate a short-term rental year-round under section 42-237, parentheses C, parentheses 1, parentheses P of the Polk County Shoreline Protection Zoning Ordinance. His property is located in section 13, town 34 north, range 15 west, in the town of Beaver. The parcel number is 008-00313-0000, and it's lot 1, or it's part of government lot 1, and it's 0.85 acres. So with that, I'm just gonna start with the exhibits this time. Yesterday morning, I forwarded one public comment that we had received. And that's everybody's email address, so I'll pass that around. From the neighbors, they said that they were gonna be here today, so there's the bottom email there, and then the map kind of shows what the property are around it. Exhibit 2 is the legal description of their property. On the bottom of that, the third paragraph, it describes the easement that is accessing the property because it is accessed by a private drive. And the third exhibit is recent CSM of 2018, showing the property just to the north of their property that has that easement road coming down through it. So Bob's got these up here as well. So underneath our third ordinance, we have 2 different ways that a tourist rooming house or a short-term rental, and that can be permitted. A short-term rental is anything that's 30 days or less at a time. So if you're doing a month-to-month contract, that's not a short-term rental. And therefore, you don't even need a license through the health department. Our current ordinance says that you can take and rent up to 7 days per month from May to September. Okay, and a total of 174 days a year. If you wish to take and rent more than that, then they can apply for conditional use. This is where we're at today, and as they're applying to do more than that as a conditional. Okay, if they're just doing the 7 days, May through September, and the 174, that's just a permitted use. And if you remember when we took and put in these new rules back in March, the idea behind the 7 days was that still opened up roughly enough nights throughout the summer and that to help people pay their taxes. But if they wanted to do more, there might be more impact to the neighbors. And then at that point, you guys decide that you'd like to have a little bit more due process, a little bit of notifying the neighbors and being able to bring it to you guys rather than us just issue a permit for it. So can we pull up the GIS map? Okay, so the property in red here is the property that the applicant owns. The red roof here is the dwelling. They've got a garage in the back and they've got that small garage there. So the small shed was permitted in 1981. It's 10 by 12. The larger garage in the back is 24 by 28. Was permitted in 1995. There was an expansion. You can almost see it in the roof off on the west side of the dwelling that was permitted in 2000. Currently, we don't have any septic permits or septic on file for the property, so really don't know what the size is out there. But I did take and go into our ascent program and looked for the last maintenance that was done on the sewer. And there was pumping of 1,600 gallons in 2020. And then we also had maintenance reports in 2019, 2017, 2016, and 2015. But there was no size or no amount of gallons in that was pumped out of it then. So the sewer's got some questions for sure on what the sizing is. Is it a 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, etc. The property is 0.85 acres. It's got roughly 100 feet of frontage, maybe a couple feet less. There's no wetlands or floodplain on the property. I'm not really sure what this area is in the back, if that's like a man-made stormwater pond or whatnot, but it's not on the DNR surface data water viewer as being any kind of wetland or navigable water. Not really sure why that's showing up black. Exhibit 3 that I provided is of this outlot here. And the people that have submitted the public comment in Exhibit 1 are the ones that own this outlot where the road is coming through. They also own the cabin here. And then I think there's some family and stuff that they co-own or share the ownership of that parcel there. This all goes down and hits Town Road. Right down here. So you can see there's roughly about a quarter of a mile of private drive in that they're driving on. The CSM shows this easement or this access area being 33 feet in width. Exhibit 2 that I provided of the deed states that there's a perpetual easement for ingress and egress and that to their property. But that one doesn't specify the width. So the public comment in Exhibit 1 talks about, off-road vehicles, four-wheelers, dirt bikes, side-by-sides and stuff running up and down that road, that they might have a concern about that. Because it is a fairly narrow road when you're out there. The dwelling, back to here, without actually having the property surveyed, which this property has not been surveyed. That's why the legal in Exhibit 2 is so long. It's just part of a government lot. The dwelling appears to be non-conforming to the ordinary high water mark setback. Appears to be about 60 feet. And it also appears that it might be non-conforming to the side property line because it's only about 7 feet, give or take a foot or two. But again, you'd have to have a survey done to know those measurements. The applicant purchased this property and it was recorded in the Register of Deeds on July 21st, 2021. The previous permit, when they permitted the deck and porch addition in 2000, said that there was 2 bedrooms in the dwelling. And the current application before you today says that it's a 3-bedroom dwelling. Wisconsin had a right to rent law. And it's up to the committee whether or not you want to put this as an exhibit. But I can pass this around. I guess we should probably pass it around. And right to rent law basically states that if somebody applies for the conditional use in our case, and that we have to allow them 180 days of rental. And then it kind of goes through and says what they have to do and what we can and can't regulate. So that is one thing, and that we basically can't prohibit them as long as they meet the 12 criteria in our ordinance for conditional use, and that could do the 180. So the county has sent out all prior notices and published this in the paper for 2 weeks to satisfy the class 2 noticing requirements prior to the hearing. So, and the only comment that we heard back was Exhibit 1. So there was no other comments submitted. I did not hear from the Lake District, but they were provided notice, and I did not hear from the town, and they were provided notice as well.
So my first question is going to be R12 conditions.
Pull up this app.
Do we have that list as well? Because how many don't they meet? Of non-conforming setbacks and that.
So here's basically the findings of fact and that I just went through, and here's the start of our 12 conditions and that we've got. So maintenance of safe and healthful conditions, creation or increase of smoke and dust, prevention and control of water pollution, sedimentation, topographic drainage features. So I'll let you go. So these are the criteria that the committee should be really looking at when they take and decide on the request.
Right now, number 11, we don't know.
Yep, right.
So that's a question. And then the area, I mean, I thought we had something in there about setbacks, if there's not a setback, because now they'd have to show us the well on that site. Also, that would be the health department, they test the well. I mean, so the septic and some of this stuff meets all those setbacks.
Correct. We have no idea where the septic is located, where the well is located, what kind of well it is. And that, so that information is not provided.
So that's something we would need a site plan, I would think there.
Correct. Yep.
How about if it's a non-conforming building and all that, do we have anything in ours?
Well, so in the previous ordinance, prior to the comprehensive rewrite, back when conditional uses, no matter how much they were being rented for, were an actual conditional use. And note in that text or that ordinance, we did have that the building had to meet all required setbacks in order to be done as a short-term rental. However, that is not in our current draft.
It's
So,
not in that.
yeah. Yeah, I think in that, I don't know, I wasn't involved in that. That was in the citizen advisory groups and stuff. And we went and we cut it really back, you know, on that. And then in 2019, we took and created all those other conditions and that's what we've got similar to now. And then in March, we had just the minor ones in that about occupancy for the number of days. So,
What is that? The 180 from the state, and then ours is 174.
you know, so we also do two different kinds of short-term rentals.
Yeah.
We've got a transient lodge, which allows for more occupancy. And then we've got the tourist screening home. So what we've done, and that in my interpretation of what the committee wanted, was they wanted an easy process to come in and get an over-the-counter permit. And you can get that over-the-counter permit. The 7 days is gonna allow you to basically pay your taxes and help with some of the upkeep. Okay, but if you're gonna take and make that property active throughout the whole summer, then at that point, they wanted more input and to be
Yeah.
able to carve out and treat every situation differently, because if it was a 40-acre parcel on a private lake that nobody else has access on, and they're a half mile off the road, the impact of a party there, you know, might be very, much smaller in that compared to
Yeah.
on a class 1 lake and a smaller lot.
What takes precedence, the 174 or the 180?
So if they meet the criteria and that, but they maybe don't.
Yeah.
And that, but if they meet the criteria, then
The 180.
I'm saying that yes, that the county and that to avoid any possible litigation needs to grant
Yeah.
180. So. And if I remember right, and that this was at county board in the 174 days, they took a random or a set 6 months. And I believe they actually counted the days in 6 months and it was 174, if I remember
it
right,
was,
because a
yeah.
couple months with the 30 days versus 31.
All right, so. Dr. Jason, we had the applicant come up there to address what they're asking.
My name is Eric Gutierrez. You guys have questions for me, or how would you like to handle it?
You're asking to rent it 24/7, it looks like,
I'm asking for effectively what the state.
180 days.
Yep, 180 days a year.
But I'm gonna say, okay, like additional information on the permit, even the application, a site plan, some of this stuff, driveways that you do not have good site plan yet. But you not know where the sewer is, the
I do know
well.
where the sewer is and where the well is. We had the well's been tested. I can provide results. As far as that, we have to provide that to the health department.
The health.
It's a drilled well.
Yeah.
The septic system, I just had Northwood Septic out last week to inspect it. We are in the process of getting it replaced. As of right now, Northwoods has said that they would be willing to sign up to do a servicing and pumping plan on it. So I can have an agreement with them to have it serviced until we're able to get it replaced.
Well, but
All right. Anybody else? Oh, you're a neighbor or something, you get to go up, whatever. Yeah, I'm asking the committee if they have any.
So it is 3 bedrooms?
It is 3 bedrooms, and we did just have the building. We just closed out a building for a construction permit on it. We took that cabin, we tore it back to studs, rewired it, added insulation, added HVAC. The building inspector was out, probably a month and a half ago, so we closed out the permit, and he did notate in that it is 3
questions, we'll have, see if there's any other public then for now. If they have one, well, go ahead.
And just one clarification, because I know you asked it, but you're asking for the realistically, this piece of paper for the 180 days a year, right?
Yes.
Is what you said. Okay.
Yeah, the 108. Right. All right. Thank you. We'll see if anybody else now. You have comments, when you come up, state your name.
Hi, my name is Craig Bauer. I'm an adjacent landowner. Good to meet you, here. So the public comment that you have, email and map is from myself and my wife, Deborah Nedeman. And I just want to take a minute or two to clarify our comments and answer any questions. The first one is, we would hope that Mr. Gutierrez would provide us with his contact information, in particular his cell phone. I think that's in one of the ordinances. It's something like, will provide contact information to neighbors or something. And frankly, Eric, I'd rather call you first than the police. Because our cabins are situated, particularly with the storm from a few years ago, that we can see your place, and that means we can hear it even though we're a couple of blocks away. And so that would be great for us. If we had that kind. That's one thing we would ask. And the other thing is, it has to do with the easement. Right, the public road, my understanding, ends right here with the green. And then the orange is our easements. I think there's one right here that goes along with this farm field. And then my wife and I own this funny shaped piece of property right here. And so just before Eric or his guests would go into his lot, they go across our lot, and there is an easement. And according to Mr. Gutierrez's deed, that easement is to go in and out of this property, well, from here. And so the way that we interpret that is that really his guests should not be going past his driveway. In other words, continue on here or here. And that's important to us because, as you said, this is kind of a narrow road, and in particular, there's a corner here where in the past, sometimes kids have gone with four-wheelers or go-karts and go zooming around there. And we've tried to keep it open a little bit so there's a line of sight, but it's a danger. And again, quite frankly, if a bunch of your guests come up with ATVs or snowmobiles and stuff, we don't want them roaring down here because of the safety, because of the noise, and because really technically they have no right. And so we would ask Mr. Gutierrez to make that clear, and the information he provides to his renters that they can certainly obviously have access to the property and come into the driveway, but they really can't go beyond it.
Just a question for you. Now that easement, it goes across your property, but then there's how many other houses? They all have easements also.
That's
All
correct.
the people up there.
You can see some of this is our cabin. There's one here, here, here. There's a few here, but this is a dead end.
Okay.
And this goes around, and that's actually a dead end. So there's
That ends to the north. Yeah. So the bigger chunk in the middle, does that Hanson still own it?
Good question. No.
Okay.
That was all, well.
That was a mess.
It was a mess. We purchased our parcel in a fire sale right out here in the hallway. Sheriff's sale, I'm sorry.
I don't think these guys were on the board, but when Hanson was doing the pods.
My understanding is that Mr. Ferguson.
Okay. Because that's when that easement, everything was really fought over, who owned which road where.
That was a lot of this very narrow spot right here.
Yeah.
That.
Because then it went around, okay. So it didn't get really settled well. That's it. Good. All right, any other concerns, or that was the biggest one?
Those are the two things.
Okay.
Contact information and providing his guests with information about where they can.
All right. Good.
Any other questions for me?
Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. Do you want any rebuttal? You can come up. Yes.
No, I think both those are reasonable. I don't have any issues with that, so we can exchange contact.
Okay, thank you. That way.
Do have some proposed conditions. I have been doing some research in that with some surrounding counties and what they've got for what ordinances. Some of them are going into like a licensing type of ordinance rather than a zoning ordinance per se. The current conditions in our ordinance were in black, and then the changes and that I did were just in the red. So some of them are easy, just like before you said applicant, well, if you're gonna grant a conditional use permit, then it's the permit holder. So it's a little bit different because the ordinance is set up for anybody that wants to just apply. So currently right now, we have in there that you basically can go up to your maximum occupancy, 2 people per bedroom. But then we've got a provision in there to allow for 12 guests and that during the daytime hours. And I had read the public comment as that they were maybe concerned about the amount of traffic on the private drive, and other people along the private drive may be concerned about the traffic. And so the renters that are there maybe get provided with the rental contact information, but maybe their friends that are coming there and stuff maybe wouldn't know what those rules are. So, if you wanted to tighten it up, I think you could just limit it to the number of renters that are there. So then in order to kind of transform A or old A into new A, I just said max of 2 people per legal bedroom because the occupancy level is still up in the air between the 2 and 3 bedrooms. And if they put in a 3-bedroom septic and the building inspector said that it is 3 bedrooms, then they would be able to go up to 6 people. So underneath our current ordinance, that's where we've got that. At any time on the property, that's kind of an important thing. And that if you're not going to take and have that 12 guests during the day provision in there. So really you'd be allowing double the amount of occupancy. So if you decide that you want to keep the 12 occupants, then we would just change that sentence there. Otherwise, B, C, and D, those are all conditions. Well, really E and F too are all conditions that you're familiar with. This is one of the things in that Marquette County has is that a property owner's residence or the agent must reside or have an office within 25 miles of the short-term rental property. So if there is a complaint, there is somebody that's somewhere close by that they can take and get to the site and talk to the renters. Office and that, a lot of them in that, there's all kinds of rental companies, and that take and manage the property for you. So that's kind of where that's at. And to know that it's just not my buddy down the road, and that to make sure that it is official and somebody is going to be available if there is a complaint, then Marquette requires a written property management agreement between the property owner and agent shall be provided. So again, not requiring a fee for any of that, but there just has to be an agreement and that kind of like a chain of command. So if you're going to call the agent and the property owner, that you have both of those numbers also available. So, and that's this here. Another thought is, so for our hearing, we notice the property owners within 300 feet of their property. So we have those owners, and you could have the applicant provide those numbers directly to all those property owners, like our comment that we had, and that from the public, so that they're very informed. I and J are the same, and so is K. This is one that I thought needed to be changed because of the access to this property being private property. This provision, unless they're on public property, so if we ever on a town road or a county or state road, if they take the dog on a leash out for a run down the road, that was our exemption and that for that. Off from their property here, that everything is private. So if they're doing anything more than just ingress and egress to the property, and that would not be included on their easement. So that's where I think that needs to be removed. So
For this one specifically, yeah,
Yeah.
not for you, just this one. We're just being specific to this site.
Just specific to this one because it's all private land. So exhibit 3 with that survey with the outlot, and that is private land. All they can do is ingress and egress, so. M is a big one. Like I said, this is one of those lots that was created just with the meets and bounds description, and it has not been surveyed. So that's a big thing, and that to make sure we have those property lines delineated for any of the renters. Our comment, and that part of exhibit 1 was that the road easement information applies to all the renters and the rental information and all the conditions. I think that could be really clarified too. After I heard the comment, some good signage, for people when they're coming down that private road, whether it's an Airbnb sign, and that with an arrow so that people know not to, go beyond and that so that they turn in. And then maybe another sign where they go out to access the private drive where, all traffic must turn left, out of their driveway so that they're not going down towards the dead end and towards their property. Septic is a big unknown right now. The applicant has been very honest. Sounds like the system is probably not working great right now. So the existing septic and that should be inspected and approved. And we, at a bare minimum, would need a written report and that identifying the size so we can determine the occupancy and what kind of system it is, so that we know what's going on. But it sounds like they're willing to put in a new septic. But I would be sketchy in that with doing a pumping plan or maintenance plan, because pumpers aren't always available either, so, and if we are going to be increasing the usage of the property, if it hasn't been used, but a half a dozen weekends out of the summer and that we could definitely see, failure. P and Q and that, those are normal conditions. Sounds like the applicant has already met the condition P there with having the building inspector out to determine the number of legal bedrooms. We would just need documentation of that. And then, of course, when they advertise, they would include the permit number and health department license number. So the next ones are all stuff and that are things that you guys can take or leave, and that we're not really recommending anything, but these are what some other counties are doing. Some counties and that say that, well, the neighbors all know the current property owner and they believe that they are going to be a good operator. And so we're okay with having them operate this because we know what's going to be done. But now if they sell the property, is the next person going to be as responsible and that to take and screen their tenants and stuff? So the conditional use could be terminated upon transfer of ownership. And then one thing to do that to help us catch it is that the permit holder has to notify us in writing when that ownership is transferred. So the permit holder and that shall apply for a yearly renewal, just making sure that that's clear before the expiration of their permit. Failure to apply for the permit expiration will require compliance with the current ordinance provisions to reapply. So if they come and pull permit July 1st and it renews by July 1st, if they come to us in September and they haven't renewed their permit of the following year, they're 2 months past their expiration date. They got to come through with whatever ordinance provision is at that time. They might have to apply for another CUP to bring it back around. So it'd be really important. That'd be a really big deadline, and that to make sure that everybody is still permitted, because if they're not current on their permit, they're probably not current on their health permit, and we have no oversight. So as you've seen in short-term rental laws, the county can create a minimum rental period of 7 days at any given time. I just threw that in there. You don't have to, but more than likely that would reduce the overall traffic coming in and going from the property. People would probably come there and be there all week and then leave, so that's an idea. Some safety stuff and that's for the next ones, and that having a fire extinguisher, and that's current, so it's in good working order. Building code does not require that. The health department does not require that. That was kind of a good thing to put in there. Some of the counties are getting really strict on like even placing a grill too close to the house. I mean, that being charcoal or gas, And some of them are getting really strict on solid wood burning, you know, and that, like a wood burning fireplace, or anything like that in their place. I didn't think that that would be necessary to get in that deep, I guess, so, but I thought it was kind of a good provision in that to at least have a fire extinguisher, because it's not something normal tourists are carrying with them in their baggage, so. This is kind of something in that may be a future thing, but when you're renting and that, you have to have a seller's permit for sales and use tax from DOR. And so we could have that number in case some municipalities down the road start charging a room tax, which is a possibility. So I don't know that Beaver does that yet, but if we had that number in that, then that could help Beaver in the future, which is the town that they're in. We've kind of went back and forth on this in the past about having proof of insurance on the property for operating a short-term rental. The county has kind of said, well, yeah, we want that. And then other times we kind of said, well, we don't want to get into whether or not it's sufficient insurance or not. So I just threw that out there. A lot of counties do require it because they are treating it as a change in use because they have different people coming and going. And then that goes into the fireplace if they don't know how to run the fireplace. And, you know, so. This is something in that we kind of have on our conditional use application, but Chairman O'Connell hit on it before, is the dwelling unit floor plan and having a site plan. So I'm talking about X and Y here. And that I think it's beneficial in that for the applicants and the people that are going to be renting the place to know exactly where the designated bedrooms are, because those are going to have the fire escapes. To know where that fire extinguisher is, if that's going to be a new condition, and the exit locations out of the building, and that in case of an emergency, and that not only provide that to us. I mean, yeah, it's nice for us to have a copy of it, but really, it isn't that people that need to know that is the renters. So, and same thing, and that with the site plan and having the parking locations on there to provide it to us for one, but mainly the renters, so that they're not parking out on that private drive. You know, maybe they've got a boat and maybe they feel like they can't get it turned around down there. We don't want them parking with their boat and their car up on that narrow private drive. So providing that information to the renters where they have to be should help. And then the applicant has said that he wants to rent for 180 days per year. This is our provision, and that I just deleted the 7 days out of there. I don't know where you want to go with that. Any
Right.
questions on any of that?
Those. The 25-mile one, I don't. G.
25, yep.
25.
What more correct county you had. And we did a similar thing in that when we did the CAFO conditional use, because, you know, in the event of a complaint and that, then somebody's close to be able to act. So.
And in this case, the owner is within 25 miles.
They are not.
Yeah.
But for example, somebody that maybe summers here, and that is kind of where I could see this provision coming into place. Somebody summers here and then they go to Florida and that, or Arizona over the winter. And now they're down there and then they rent out their place as an Airbnb for the winter months. You know, I mean, there's no way that they could even get there within a day, you know, and that to resolve an issue. So.
Go ahead.
I go back up to the limiting the people on the site.
Sure.
I went through this before. But I look at it as there's like a grandparent living. I'm not going to stay with my kids on this property. If they invite them for lunch, I think they ought to be able to go there. Now it's limited because crosses out the 12 occupants. Instead of only be the 6, I don't think that's right. So.
I threw it out there as an idea,
Yeah,
and that
well, we-
because just trying to limit parties, you know, so I mean, you can have a day party and you can have 12 friends come plus the 6. So now I've got 18 people, you know, or no, 12, so it's like a max of 12, and that they're, and carrying on until 11 o'clock at night. Because that's when quiet hours start. So, yeah, I have no question in that, but also you have more traffic down the private road then. And they don't know, the grandparents might not know the conditions, they might not know where to park. So that's where I just.
This is for this one, oh, not all.
I understand,
Okay, that's just-
but it's still
pretty limited.
it's pretty limited, and you can just have grandparents know what the conditions are. I mean, it's not that tough to say. You gotta get on the property and what, you know, just think we're limiting people. Beyond our scope.
Or if, you know, if somebody else, you know, if it's a white family, they can sit in there. Because there's another one down the road where. You know, not only grandparents, but you know, if you're looking at, or if it's friends or whatever. I agree with that. Pulling it down that.
But then we've also increased the chances that of raising issues. I mean, I think we would agree that the more people we put on the property, the bigger the chance that the issues become. I mean, in this case, it's an easement. You know, all of a sudden, we don't have four-wheelers at my tourist rooming house, but the ones down the road do. And now we're all together, we're tearing up and down the road. I don't know, I mean, I get it that you can't have anybody come. On the other hand, if I'm renting a place 150 miles from home, how many are coming? It's just, you know, to see me. I mean, granted, I get the grandparents, you know.
Done it, so I know that you can drive there and see your kids and your grandkids.
Yeah, but I mean, we're letting you, I mean, even because it would be a maximum of 6 and so 8 can be there at any time.
That's currently how it's worded is that would be up to a 4-bedroom house. If you had a 4-bedroom house, you could take and have that,
Okay.
you know, that, but I mean, that wouldn't take much. I mean, we would just say, you know, max, so if he's gonna do a 3-bedroom place, we just do max of 6 people during quiet time and that, and up to 8, and that during.
Because that's the way I read it. It was 6 with 2 extras. That's,
Yeah, that's what.
that's the way that's
The
the way
wording
I
is
read
kind
it.
of funky because we don't know what the septic is like. And we have 2 different permits with 2 different numbers of it. But that could easily be clarified, 6 and 8 at any time on the property.
Yeah, so that's the way I was reading it, is we were saying they could have 6 because of 3 bedrooms. And then,
I think we'd be okay with that.
with
6 during the day, or sorry, 8 during the day, 6 just staying on the property.
This is 6 at night, yeah.
I do agree with the grandparent point. That is something that, like, for us. it's important.
Well, they're all right. because I mean, okay. So now, the next one, the 25. We're gonna kind of leave that in there then, everyone, or? Put it closer, farther?
I'm fine with it. I think you should have somebody relatively close to be able to make that phone call and, you know, and be there, because it's, as Jason said earlier, it's no different than if somebody leaves for south and wants to rent their house out all winter long. They need to find a neighbor. They need to find somebody who can be there to respond to issues. You know, so I have no problem with that whatsoever. I think that's the property owners, that's just due diligence on their part. They have somebody there to take care of the problem. So, you know, not necessarily to this case, but if there is 4-wheelers, whatever, carrying around a whole bunch of traffic at 25 miles, I'm only a half hour away. You know, to get there, see where the circles have been spun, and if nothing else, to document the issues that the neighbors have had.
Eric, they can have a comment on that. So the applicant did have a comment.
Oh, okay.
Do you want me to come up to speak or?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
You can do it right there.
Okay, I'm 90 minutes away. I'm a professional property manager. I've been doing this in Polk County for the last 6, 7 years. I've been out here in the middle of the night. I am available 24 hours. I can be here in 90 minutes. I've done that in the past. We've not had any issues. We have a cleaning crew that's on site. They're in range, so they're very close. We have maintenance personnel around as well. I find that to be a little bit, I understand the point of it. Somebody's going down south in the winter. Since we are just speaking just this case, that would be a hard one for us to agree to or do. That would just.
Have somebody else, okay.
Yeah,
So being that, we can put in that he has that numbers or something, and it is 24/7. I mean,
His
if he
own
can
number.
cover it, yeah.
And what about the maintenance person? Maybe be part of that? Can he be part of?
Yeah,
that?
you got a maintenance and a cleaning crew. They could be the contact people. It isn't necessarily to solve the problem. It's to document the problem and to make sure that the complaint was actually
Valid.
a valid
Valid
complaint.
complaint,
It
yeah.
isn't about fixing the problem at this instant.
It's maybe more to protect the one.
Yeah, I think. So I would say that like, you had an agreement with your cleaning company that we could also contact them, you know, if there was any issues, then I think you'd be satisfied. So, because we were definitely within 25 miles.
Yes.
Jason, I want to see if I can clear this in my head. If we have 180 days, and that's gonna be on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
When we rent it out for the winter, then it becomes a long-term rental
Yeah.
or a totally different class of rent.
It'll be done differently.
If it's over that
Hmm.
30 days or more, but they can still rent it to multiple people. If you need
Yeah.
at a time.
If I want to go ice fishing there next, you know, 1 week and that, and then my buddy wanted to go there the following week and that, he could still do rentals throughout the winter. You know,
Not over 180 days, that's what I'm trying to clear up.
180 days for short term, and that, but he could still do long term, he could still do monthly.
Rent it for 3 months, that wouldn't count towards.
Right, that's what I'm
That's-
trying to
yeah.
say.
But they have to rent it for a minimum of 30 days that you get the long. See, that's right, at least a month.
Yeah.
Yeah, then that wouldn't count towards it.
But a lot of times they
Up to 3 months.
will rent it out.
Yeah, see, then that doesn't count for this.
That's like, yeah. So,
That's really getting down to that last provision in that, because, you know, you guys are ultimately gonna be deciding, can they make all them 180 days in the summer months or not? All right,
I think the only other thing is maybe the survey or something in the site plan.
well, the
We go back to
survey
that.
is done, you know, and that's,
Yeah.
you know, something that we require normally. Then it's
We want to-
basically, you
So they don't park on the sewer or hit the well. Or things like that. So I feel
that
is
it
enough.
actually requires up above hard surface parking areas, so that they're not parking in the grass and.
we have a gravel driveway, gravel parking. I think
And
the
that
way it's
is,
set up,
yep.
we can add some markers and whatnot, but it would be pretty self-evident. If you want to park. Okay.
So, let's go back to W there when you get.
I guess on point M then, as well as regarding the survey, I found all 4 of the lot corners. The survey stakes are there, and I can spray paint the tips of those orange. I mean, they are there.
As long as they're actual, you know.
I mean,
so-
they're, yeah. they've been-
Okay.
Do we care about W?
I don't think we can do it.
No, I mean, that's kind of my point. I don't think that's, I'm not sure that's our responsibility to, you
Yeah, we
know.
just take it right out.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I'm saying, is take W right out. I mean, I don't think. That's their issue if they've got insurance or not.
Definitely. Okay, so W would be gone. We'll do a site plan with the parking, we just said that, so now it's Z. Just the days per month then, and then the total of 180, do we want any limits in there, or
Well, I
just leave it at 180? Let them,
No, I want limits.
okay, start the
10
arguments.
10 days a month, May through September, with a total of 180 days.
That goes against the Wisconsin. Right. That would go
10
against
days
the
a month,
Wisconsin
only
right
120.
around.
10 days a month, grants only 100.
Can't prohibit for less than 180 days. So the right to rent law in that states that we cannot prohibit for less than 180 days in that for rent. And that, but the county can specify in that when those are. So
Just wait a second. We do have a couple lawyers in the room. We're one
Only
left.
one, the other
Only
one.
one he left? Then we would have a good argument. Now, two lawyers, okay. How is it read? How does our corporation council read that?
So you can't limit for less than 180 days, but you can specify that those 180 days have to be consecutive.
How about, can they get
They what?
not consecutive?
I'll read it to you.
Limit total consecutive days.
Can, yes, it's underneath the can.
Yeah.
Right, that you can specify that those days, the rental opportunity days are consecutive, so for 6 months. It can be rented.
Short term, 6 months, but can we do it so it's non-consecutive? I
I don't
mean, what
believe
if you want to
so.
rent
No,
every other
I don't
month?
believe so.
Oh, it has to be 180 days. And then they can't do it. That doesn't seem.
I believe my interpretation of it was that you can't put the 7 or 10 days per month in there. You can say it can be a max of 180 days. But you can't actually specify when that is.
Other than
Could
saying
make
they
it-
have to be
Other than
consecutive,
it would have to be consecutive.
that is the only,
which in
that's the
that
only
case, we're gonna
allowable
pick
limit.
summer months. So it would-
Yeah. I would-
So if you do it that way, it's right. So I mean, I don't know if that's beneficial to anybody. Yeah. Yeah, we like that especially.
Yeah.
There's all that, and it's less busy.
Well, is
That's kind of a.
key.
So
So, no, and that's pretty clear that you can require, and that it's a weekly rental or a 7-day rental. So, but if we go back up. Before we get too far, I mean, go back up to the conditions. So here's where we come back, and that to the conditions in the ordinance that require granting or denying. And, is maintenance and safe with healthful conditions, the prevention and control of water pollution and sedimentation. So that 7 days per month, you remember right back when we did that, we were taking and looking at the benefit to the lake. Because instead of having, occasional use of the lake, now we've got people using it all the time. We got disturbance, we've got more erosion on our shorelines from the boats. And that we've got more people on the private drive, on the traffic side of things. We also, in that, have safety concerns because now if everybody's doing these on the lakes and that, we're gonna have a lot more boats out there, more jet skis, personal watercraft, etc. So that's where that limitation was set. So I think you can take and apply criteria and that says, and that if you do more than whatever it is, that we're deeming that health and safety. We're deeming that and that, providing more erosion and disturbance to our natural resources.
Say that again, Jason, just so I understand.
So, and that if we use the criteria for maintaining safe and healthful conditions, about how many boats are gonna be out on the lakes, the erosion and that, the disturbance and that for the aquatic, nutrients and stuff. And that you could take and use some of that to support, any kind of granting or denying of the application. As long as we're following these criteria.
Clear, just a clarification, so I get it in my mind. You're saying, Malia, we have to rent, we have to pick, we can go 180 days, but we have to pick which 180 days.
No. You say they have to be consecutive. You can't say they have to be consecutive, but only in the winter. They have to be consecutive, but only in the summer. The only limitation on that 180 days, if you put a limitation at all, is you can say they must be consecutive. And then the operator needs to let the county know, hey, I'm starting, so start my 180-day clock running now. If you put the limitation on there that they must.
But we don't have to put the condition on that they have to be consecutive.
You do not have.
So it could be 180 days.
flat. Whenever they happen to happen. If you, I mean, right, because if you said they must be consecutive, then you are compressing that. And you're probably, in most cases, saying we're going to make all of that heightened use happen during the summer months, during the time when erosion can happen, during time when, boats would be in the water. Whereas if you didn't, you would be inviting them to say, hey, if you have ice fisher people who come, they're gonna come during the winter. And so you're limiting that additional use during the summer months theoretically. So from an environmental use standpoint, you could kind of weigh those things. Do we want it to be limited to only 6 months of the year consecutive, or do we want it spread out?
So to spread it out, we could say 15 days a month.
Nope.
No.
No, the only limitation on when is that they are consecutive. Completely consecutive. Not in 15 chunks with every other 15.
So it would start April 15th or something.
If you limited it to consecutive, which you don't have.
So we could just.
But if we don't limit it to 180 days, then we're right back to where we started 2 years ago. Of it's
year-round.
wide open 365 days a year. Anything you want, balls to the walls, just give her wide open, rent that baby out every day of the week. If we
Right.
don't limit it to 180. Because like
Or a
now, I mean,
number
so we've
within that.
limited to 174. That's how we got to 174 originally.
For 6 months.
Was the 6 months.
Right, but now the statute says
to
one.
take, right, but to take some of that pressure off. Because if we just say it's wide open, well, summertime is when people want it. It's gonna be wide open, and then it's gonna be realistically wide open all winter long also.
And the 180 is the minimum, so we could say 250.
Of course.
Or to comply with your 7 days consecutive, should be at least 182. That's the whole point.
Now I've got somebody doing math.
We know what happened with that last night.
That's what you do. That's what you do. Shorter finger,
time.
shorter finger,
One time.
shorter finger in the toe somewhere.
So I mean, hypothetically with that, you could rent it out every other week all year round.
Yeah, you could.
So realistically, looking at it, you
That's what
either
we
do a 6 month consecutive, starting on whatever day. So if it's April 15th, it's through October.
But you couldn't set that day. They could decide this is a.
But
for the example, yeah.
For the example,
Sure.
or you limit it to 182 days, which is 26 weeks, they pick the weeks.
That allows us to spread stuff out through the winter, rather than impacting us to force it all.
So in Jason's example on the lake loading and stuff, then, there might be some summer weeks where you don't have anybody. If you're talking about the environment and being better for it, that's probably better.
A nightmare for us to track.
I was gonna say, but
Yes.
no.
No matter how you do it, it's gonna be a nightmare.
Yeah.
We got 135 of these.
Yeah. We don't have- I mean, we can say what we want in the ordinance, but we don't have a way to monitor that. Because it isn't like they're going in and checking off, yep, renting this. We don't have a calendar for each person. And
Well, we have, since we've had the 7 days, and that,
Yeah.
so we're getting them for them and that, but.
That underline here that minimum rental 7 days. I don't know what much. In rent 5 days, they have 2 days to clean them, get it ready for the other. It seems restricted, highly restricted to me to say 7 days.
7 days of rental, yeah, the days of cleaning though, so.
I know what you're saying, 7 days, so I don't know.
I'm not saying, that's in your ordinance and your policy.
Can we say that it has to be 7 days? Oh, yeah.
You're saying, asking, can you change the condition and have it be at minimum of 2 or 3 day rental instead of 7?
No,
Is that what you're asking?
can we make it say 7 days?
Right.
This rental is 7 days long. Each rental is
It
7
must
days.
be 7 days long?
Yeah, like what was one of those,
The right to rent law says that we can prohibit rentals of less than 7 days.
Right. So anything about that,
We can require 7 days.
you don't have to, but you
right, that
can.
doesn't mean I have to rent it for 7 days.
But you guys can determine that. You don't have to make that a requirement, that it's a weekly rental. You guys could say, yep, we'll do one nights, and that, but that's up to you guys. You can, if you want, make it a weekly rental.
That would be tough to enforce too.
We don't care if they stay away a week.
No,
No.
That comes back to protecting the shoreline
no.
and all
yeah.
of that and saying, then if I come in and rent Doug's house for 2 days, he can't rent it for the next 5, right?
No, and so that's saying that you take and book it from Friday to Friday, 7 days, but the way our current ordinance is, without coming to the CUP, is we're allowing him to do 7 days a month. And I think the actual conversation that we had, and that was that if I'm on a lake and if I can get $350 a night and that, or $300 a night, if I got 35 days of rental, and that's 10,500. So my property taxes are 10 grand, and that I could probably get that $300 a night on an Airbnb. And that, so there I pay for my taxes throughout the summer. Then whatever I do, and that, April's a nice month, October and November can be nice months, that's extra, up to that 174. So most of these are booked all summer, as you know.
And Doug, they book them, you check out at 11, the cleaning crew is there at 12. The next crew comes in by 4, and that's how it works. It's constant. There's never a night that they aren't rented a lot of times. That I've experienced.
No, on the one I know.
Yeah.
Because it's no different. I guess I get a little off here. We got 180 days consecutive. And we're talking about 7 days. And it just, it's 180 days consecutive. They make a decision on what it is.
It was 2 different types of permits. So the 7 days is you just come in, see staff, and that we say, yep, you can meet the conditions, we check them off, and that there's your permit. And that's basically payment of your tax.
I got that. I know that.
And that now you want to do more of a commercial business, you want to generate $16,000 in revenue in a month, and that now that was going to be a condition.
So that's where we're at with this one.
Yeah, that's
right.
So that 7 days, we could change it. Hypothetically. And
Yeah.
so it could be, it could be 182 days max. And just leave it alone. Let them pick the days
Yeah,
and you investigate when you have.
And I'll go back up a little bit.
is there,
So we got 2 different 7s. We got 7 days per month underneath our permitted use. And then I threw this out there because it's something that you guys can do. You can take and limit the rental to 7 days minimum. So there's a minimum 7-night reservation period. Which is what the right to rent law allows you to do. I just threw that out there so you
Yeah.
do, and that is an option. So, but you don't have to.
we can take that
You
one
can do it
out,
all,
go down to the bottom, the 182, and then
Yeah.
if there's complaints and everything, they lose it.
I'm still saying, why would we take the 7 days out?
Because we don't care when they rent it.
We're not gonna define the times they rent.
About the minimum 7 days?
Yeah,
Because
that
that's
says
telling-
minimum up there.
That's telling you that
You
you
gotta
gotta
rent
rent
a week at a time.
Yeah.
Yep, that's fine with me. I think they should have to rent a week at a time. That way we're not moving people in next door to me on the lake every 3 days. I'm perfectly fine with it. Being it's a 7 day.
Can I speak to that from a practical standpoint? So if we have a 7-day minimum
And if you guys do put us on consecutive, we're gonna stack them. So you're never gonna not have somebody there. But if we're allowed to do shorter rentals than that, as they come in, we'll wind up with natural gaps that occur in our calendar. So there will be vacant days in summer. But if you put us on a 7-day minimum, you're gonna have same-day turnovers. You're ensuring.
Well, but
You're
I
not
think
allowing the natural vacant days.
if we were only concerned about the 180 days a year, that could be done now. I mean, realistically, these things, regardless if it's this one or any other ones, they're used in the summertime. That's when people want to come here. And so you can say we're gonna pack them in 7 days at a time all summer long. They're gonna pack them in 7 days at a time all summer long. If someone will rent my Airbnb, I'm gonna pack them in all summer long. I'm gonna pack them in all winter long, if I can. And so by going 7 days, I think we're gonna see less traffic on the lake, because how many people are gonna really want to come for 7 days?
Well, they eliminate things like bachelor parties, bachelorette parties, those types.
Yeah, I think you're gonna get, you know. This committee has heard a lot about just, grandma and grandpa and the little old ladies from church coming up to the Airbnb. Unfortunately, no one's ever stood in front of us and said, holy buckets, these people come up and party wild all week long, or for 3 nights long. That's what we're looking for. And I think this takes a lot of that issue away, because they're coming for 7 days. And to me, it also cuts down traffic on the lake, because maybe I have to pay to rent it for 7 days, but I'm only gonna be there 4 days, 5 days, whatever it is. And to me, it's lowering the traffic on the lake, because if I go rent that Airbnb for 7 days and I'm gone in 5, there's no traffic on it for the next 2 days. Where otherwise, Sharon's right, they're rolling them in, and it's a business. It isn't a residence. The hotel doesn't turn me down if they've got a room. And the Airbnb isn't gonna turn me down if I've got a room. They're gonna roll them as fast as they can. And I think 7 days, a minimum of 7 day rental, I like it. That's my 4 cents.
Okay.
Go ahead, Doug.
I don't, so that's fine. But one thing that I've seen is, and when I say I think we all as supervisors keep our ears open on the lake for what's going on, and what has happened in the past. And I believe that the ones that I know and know the neighbors, that's how I get all this information. All this partying and wildness has toned down because of our changing some of the regulations, and they're gonna lose their permit. And the owners come to them and say, you follow these rules, because it's changed somewhat.
Well, 2 weeks ago, I was at 2 lake association meetings in the same day. And it's the only thing they talked about. Was there,
This happened in the
there,
lake.
Not
was
saying
there,
they don't.
was there, and I will say hatred for Airbnbs on their lakes.
Balls, that
Yeah.
we get on it.
Yeah.
is-
Yeah, I mean, it is the biggest issue on a lake. And I mean, if we're just we're gonna open it up, then it's, I don't know.
How many more are on that road? Do we know? Is there any more along that road? Airbnbs?
Oh,
Oh,
Airbnbs.
I don't know.
Oh, is there any more rentals along there that we know of? Yeah, they're the only one right in that corner. See if all of a sudden popped up and there's 10 of them in a row or something.
I don't know.
Anyway. I just think there'll be a lot less lake traffic if you spread it all. Because if you have 26 weeks, use that. 26 weeks. Third of them probably. That's deep. But deep, even probably in the fall, winter, there won't be any traffic. I don't think we should limit your days, because you're kind of limiting the business.
Well,
No,
but
I haven't
that's-
been at
That's the
But
key word.
that's-
It's a business in
Yeah,
a
it is,
residential
it's a
area.
business in a residential district. And that's the key
That
thing.
goes back to your conditions, the compatibility with the surrounding land use.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
That's another criteria.
Yeah, it turns in, that's why we picked 6 months, because then it turned into a business.
Yeah. Yeah, because I have no issue with somebody renting their house up to pay the taxes, like Jason said earlier. But we're saying this not just locally, but everywhere. It is a business, is a commercial business in a residential area. That's all it's about. You know, that's what was said earlier today. It's my business. But it's in a residential zoned area, and it's a business.
It's a huge deal throughout the whole state. I mean, it was talked about on the Wisconsin County Association meeting this last weekend that,
Let's
People
be a
talk
little
about it.
more specific to the one we're on,
yeah.
So-
you know,
so that we can get this moving forward. So
Yeah, so
let's go
Jason,
through these conditions, decide
You
which
have-
one.
do you have anything that says if we turn it down? I mean, you've got possible conditions if granted, is there?
I don't, but I mean, we can go through them. If you want, I can talk off the cuff. Go back up to the criteria. Okay, maintenance of safe and healthful conditions. So for that, we have private driveway that it's being served by, that has no town access. And that we don't really know the legalities of what that access would include for how many people, and if it would allow for a commercial type of access. Creation and increase of smoke, dust, you know, it's a gravel driveway, so I mean, if you have a lot more traffic on it, you know, then there could be more dust. And that, so you could have impact there. Prevention and control of water pollution, including sedimentation. We're not increasing impervious surface, but that's where you bring in more boats, more people on the lakes. Can definitely, you know, create more shoreline erosion, and that can take in increased pollution. Existing topographic and drainage features, and cover on the site. It's pretty much an open site, you know, unfortunately, that area got hit with the 2019 July storm. And that we've heard a lot of comments in that. I mean, maybe some of it's not the fault of the applicant, but I mean, it's pretty much open. Yeah,
We're going through these.
so, and I'm talking about the area and that around the house, and that from the house to the water, you know, so. Location of the site with respect to floodplains and floodways, and that, I would say that they meet that because we don't have any floodplain or floodways. And they are non-conforming though, and that to the lake setback, so the house is closer to the lake, which then can go back to maintenance of safe and healthful conditions. Because the noise in the yard on the lake side of the dwelling, and that is more likely to carry because they're closer to the water, so it's gonna carry across the water. The erosion potential of the site, that one really doesn't apply. We said that they're pretty much all mowed grass, so we assume that people are gonna be down around the house in that grass area when they're there to rent. The location of the site with existing and future access roads. And that here we are, and that we are being accessed by a private drive. We've got over 1/4 mile. And that now, if we do have people coming and going more, to that, you know, what kind of maintenance is gonna be done to that road? And that are all the other property owners gonna take and bear the cost and duty to take and make sure that that road is maintained? And that, so that those renters can get to their property and the property. Heavy vehicle traffic and increased traffic. You know, I mean, increased traffic is probably the only thing that might apply here. If you have people coming and going, if the condition was 12 people, I don't know too many households that have 12 people in them. Frankly, I don't know too many people or households that have many more than 6, at least in my knowledge. So, I mean, if we got 8 in that and they're coming and going, they're going out to eat and stuff, there could be the potential for more traffic there. I'm not saying that there will be, but it could be. The need for the proposed use, you know, I mean, this one and number 10 are kind of coming back to that commercial use in a residential neighborhood. And that, do we have enough lodging in that available? The property is fairly close to Turtle Lake, and there is, you know, hotels and stuff there. So there is that possibility. You know, the adjacent land is residential. One lot is vacant. And that, but they're normal residential homes. The property is zoned residential R1. the amount of septic waste, and that's a big question mark right now, because in that, we have no documentation of what septic is on site, on file. If they have to have a maintenance plan, and in order to have it pumped every time the tank is full, that's a failing septic system. So, so that would take, and unless it's a holding tank, that's gonna be a failing drain field, so that would not be met because there's not an adequate sanitary system there. Location of the uses, and that, you know, where we're not trying to increase pollution, we're not trying to increase population. You know, the more people you bring, and that, the more that there is a risk for any kind of pollution, no matter what we're talking about. If we're talking about spray chemicals, lawn fertilizer, there's, you know, the more that you apply to an area, the more risk in that you're gonna have pollution. So that's basically cool. Those are some reasons in that I could think of where the committee could actually go down each criteria and say that, you know, and I think in that the date of purchase, and that being July of 2021. And that this hasn't been in the family a long time, you know, and that this is a new purchase, and that they still can go through with the permitted use process and still can do the 7 days per month and 174 days.
Good enough for me. Motion to deny the application.
Is there a second?
I need to let the committee know that what you need to do is address any concerns you have, set conditions. A condition that the septic be appropriate, that it be inspected. A condition that they make sure that the road access is maintained, whatever that looks like. But if you deny it outright, you would be in violation of the law. And I'm just letting you know that.
So if we,
I will withdraw my motion, Mr. Chair.
all right, but still, on that, if they can't meet our conditions.
Correct.
It can be denied.
Absolutely.
All right. So, I mean, there's a way. Just do it too quick.
But they've been, the conditions are pretty much identified in here. I mean, in your work, we know which ones are questions, we have questions on.
So we should go through the conditions and they have to meet them before they get the permit. Is what we have to say.
Postpone, I mean, if you're interested in what all of these things are gonna look like, you can definitely postpone until they
We
provide.
have
you
all our
that
answers
information.
before.
We have to know where the, I mean, they said they know where the property survey stakes are, but we don't know where they are. So I mean, we have to know, and to know that they're truly survey stakes and not just something that the two neighbors decided to pound in the ground.
Septic's
We've
a
got-
good one.
We don't know about the septic,
Number of bedrooms.
number of
We
bedrooms.
don't have the town building inspector's report to look at in the file, so
We can get it, right? That's what we should probably have.
you can request it.
We
Yeah.
should request, we should make a list in what we think, what we do not know. That we would have to have that before we can approve something. I think that's what we should look at. That we have to have these things first. Before we approve or disapprove. So that we have knowledge of what's there.
Yep.
And not say, yes, go ahead and do it, and then all of a sudden something isn't working out right. Because they might go out, Mark, so the survey stakes and the neighbors might say that those are wrong.
You can put a condition on it and that the septic system is replaced, you know, and that for a 3-bedroom system and that, and then staff can handle that. And we just won't issue the permit until those conditions are met. But if you as a committee feel that when you get this new information, the site plan, the survey markers, you know, whatever it might be, if that's gonna take and change the conditions, then, you know, I mean, it might be for the better. I mean,
Yeah.
instead of having, you know, you might say, well, yeah, you know, we don't think that you need 300 feet, you know, because you've talked to all your property owners now, or whatever you guys want to do. The septic's in, so we know that we can only have 6 people there, you know. So if it changes and that your outcome and the condition that you assign, then yeah, you postpone to
All
get
the
that
information and postpone it for that information. All right.
I
What,
like that.
what do
I
you think we
that
should
makes
do then?
sense.
Should we make a list and,
Yeah.
before we approve or disapprove? Have all the information up front. All right. So if we're gonna do that, then let's make the list of what we've got. Then we can move forward that way, okay? So we have. So on record, so we want the survey, the septic. The number of bedrooms. From the building inspector.
Make sure the property that, I mean, that it is surveyed, the stakes are actually truly.
Oh, yeah, the
surveyed.
survey stakes.
Can staff verify this? That they weren't there?
Survey.
Try, but I mean, and that, it'd have to be very clear that they're survey markers, otherwise I'm not a surveyor. So
Just asking, I didn't know if that, you're going to do this.
we would recommend a map survey to be done on the property and that to have those locations confirmed. You know, so. At least either a map survey or a CSM. So that's what we've been requiring, and that's what the
That's what we
ordinance
require.
requires is, and that property lines must be surveyed with boundaries clearly staked by a professional land surveyor. So I'm not a land surveyor, so that's why we'd have them mark those corners.
So M would apply to the survey. All right. And then for the legal bedrooms, yeah, that they have that. If they finish that, we just need that last report.
Mhm.
Yeah, anything else?
Well, and the survey might take and address some of the things about the side lot line setback, you know, and that could then that
Yeah.
way, you know.
As far as non-conforming building
Yeah,
structure.
right. You know, so I mean, then you might say, well, it's only 7 feet off the property line, maybe a privacy fence should be placed there, you know, or something like that.
Well, then the site plan too, also. for
Really hard to
parking
say.
and everything, yeah, we should have a good site plan, know where the wells or. Okay,
Jason, how did it become non-conforming to the lake?
Go prior to going. So, yeah.
Well, that's what my question is.
So, yeah,
so it's illegal.
and it didn't,
One of
and again, the map.
So it doesn't. That's.
More than likely, this was built prior to 1969, and that for shoreline zoning, because the lot here is vacant, so there's no averaging in that we can do for setback to the water. If there was another dwelling here, you know, at the same setback, then we could setback average and that to get a reduced setback, but at that point, it's not a non-conforming building, it's a conforming building because we're using a provision of the ordinance to prevent destruction. So, but this one here, I'm gonna guess that the old cabin, like I said, I don't have a permit on it, on file, so I mean, it predates us. Doing permits was probably about right there on that line, and then that was added on. And probably, you know, early 60s, 50s, you know, time period. So that's how it got close, and then, you know, back then, they didn't have nice mapping and stuff, you know, so.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's where I'm sure it got close to the lot line. So, and we didn't have a 10-foot setback either.
All right, anything else, anyone?
What did we decide about the 180?
We didn't until we know all this other stuff.
So we're just gonna leave that.
That'll come up. I guess,
When we get this
when we get this other
information.
information, that'll be.
So you're
what we're
gonna
down
continue the public hearing to a date certain.
to. Well,
I mean, the deliberation part of.
the deliberation,
We have to re-advertise.
You
So
wanna re-advertise?
I don't know when he's gonna be able to do the survey, you know, so.
okay,
And the septic, you know, I mean, I have no idea what the time frame is on that, so.
Yeah.
It's just a straight motion, of course.
so if he could get it, the
Then
sooner he gets it. he can come in
the
there.
only motion under Robert's rules is to postpone to a date certain, so I'm wondering if you want to maybe put it out a reasonable amount of time. And then if on that date it's not ripe yet, just postpone again.
We could go to like the 1st of June of next year or something and meet anytime before that, though, right? Or not, if we postpone.
He
it
would
to the
certainly have to do it,
Date certain. Yeah, I would do a date certain like.
and then it could be postponed again. So we can do it the first meeting in November,
There you go.
if you think you can. do
And then
it.
if there was a hiccup with getting some of that stuff, they let you know.
And I can work with Jason to let him know if we're gonna track that or play again. That's fine.
So we just postpone it, let's say, just say 2 months at a time.
Yeah,
Or if they said,
Second
well,
meeting or
we're
first-
within a month, then we postpone it a month.
to get our.
November
advertising.
is a weird month for you guys.
Yeah, every month is a weird. one.
I mean, I'm just saying with
Budget and everything,
budget and hunting and.
budget's over, hunting's over, it'll work.
First meeting in November is November 2nd.
Because we don't have a second one kind of here.
So you want to do December or the second meeting? No.
Second meeting is November.
There's probably no second meeting in November.
Well, let's just go to the first meeting in November. And if it isn't done, we just kick it to December or whenever the applicant thinks, okay,
Yeah.
you know, maybe it's gonna be January or February. They already know it that. Sure.
I just say, so realistically, I need to get it surveyed. Stuff. Not just approve it based on those conditions. When I provide you with those conditions, then it's, as you were saying, because then it's something that you guys are able to handle in the office.
I don't think so, only because once that survey comes in, is that shed really, is it 2 feet away from the property line? Is it 12 feet away from the property line? Here's, do we want a fence along the shed? I don't know.
The
Uh,
house.
or the house, and it's the house, sorry, yeah, yeah.
Well, and the site plan might change your thoughts too. So.
Yeah,
I can point out where the well is on the line or on the map.
Well, we-
Septic's gonna be new, so those are your two.
Yeah,
two
but
pieces.
they'll have to be on the site plan with the parking and everything. So,
5 minutes.
well, if it's drawn to scale and everything. It's there.
Leonard.
Oh, yeah.
Do it.
Well, yes. But you don't know where the sewer. If you had a soil test or not. They're not.
We're working, that's supposed to be this week. That's supposed to be on Friday.
So just be clear in that you said site plan, so you don't care about like the building footprint plan, not like the interior plan, right?
I thought health asked for that. I assume that, but I don't know. They don't.
They would do a walkthrough inspection and that, but they don't actually require a footprint or a building.
but they do a walkthrough and make sure there's three bedrooms. 2 or whatever
The
the number.
building inspector will determine the number of legal bedrooms. The health department goes through, make sure that they got smoke detectors, that they're water, that they've got egress, you know, and stuff.
Yeah.
So, yep.
They do also check for fire extinguishers. So that,
Oh, they
I know you
do?
put that on your list, but yeah, that is something like they want to see.
Okay. See, I think that's the health department. They get to at least do some of these. inspections. We don't have to do it. I think the inside part of the health should actually ask for that because emergency access
So
and
for the
stuff.
next
It's like
meeting-
any motel, hotel, you gotta, it's marked everywhere. How to get out.
So for the next meeting, do you guys want to see pictures of the site too? And that, I mean, on site, you want staff to go out and. do-
I would have them bring them in when they're done. If they want. I mean, if that helps. I mean, they're gonna be there. They could take pictures too. Never hurt. Okay. All right. That pretty much covers everything. I think everyone.
Yeah.
Then I'll entertain
Are we
a
good with that?
motion.
I think Jason's going to just. For good measure.
What's that?
Re-advertise it for the next meeting.
No, not till
For
November, the
November
first meeting
2nd.
in November. I'm gonna entertain a motion to postpone until November.
But if you're advertising, I mean, are you reopening so more public comment?
But if we postpone to a date certain, do we have to re-advertise? No.
No.
You're not on a date certain.
Oh, okay,
When we're
yeah,
through?
all right.
So then we are good.
And we did that.
Right, because anybody who would
So-
be here for the public hearing would hear that it's postponed to the date certain, so they would have notice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you guys postpone it to the date certain and that's completed, then that we won't react.
Yeah, so, all right, I'll make a motion to postpone to November 2nd.
Seeking the additional information. A map of survey or CSM completed by a professional licensed surveyor. is what I'm understanding. that a new septic system is installed. And then number of bedrooms is clarified through the local building inspector's report. Yep. In writing.
And
And then the
the site plan, the full site plan. Okay.
You guys communicate with the building inspector on that then, or would I?
Well, and then you would take and contact them, and then they usually take and provide me a copy. I think you got a carbon copy on the letter, so that they, or on their report. So, yep.
So was there a second? Casey said. So any other discussion? Hearing none, then all those in favor say aye. Opposed? All right.
Copy for the committee. We can put it in the packet next time. if
I
you'd
think
like.
so.
Yeah.
I think so. Why don't you give us one? I'm just thinking, read it maybe. And get that. All over. All right, so number 7 was done. Hey, we get up.
We'll do the Town of Garfield ordinance, long as we're on number 6.
When did I skip one? Oh, yes, I did. Sorry. Yep. Oh, that's our 100 pages in there. Yeah. Yeah, I sent too close to Jay.
So
Yeah, come.
Town of Garfield is following up, and that, if you remember, we gave use zoning regulations to the town of Farmington, Garfield, and St. Croix Falls. And that what you'll see in there is that they're going through and they're addressing their boathouse and their short-term rental ordinance. So they're updating that. There is a fairly large development in the town of Garfield right now that's going to be 10 little cabins and yurts like on one property, and they're all going to be rented as short-term rentals. So there's 10 little 2-bedroom, they're like a luxury tent. And that they're going in out there, so this is what kind of driving.
Did you say you're?
And that, yeah, they're like an African safari.
Yeah, they have them at, Big Rock Creek.
Yeah, I haven't been there lately, but anyway, so but they're up on elevated decks.
Yeah.
So they're built on elevated decks, and they're right by Ox Lake, they're on the south side of Ox Lake. They're putting in a huge sewer system and that we just permitted. So anyway, but all those are gonna be rented. So that's all handled by the town, though,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
not underneath their control. So this here and that, anytime they change their ordinance, or their zoning map, it does require, approval through the, county, and it's gotta go to the county board too, so. I would assume this would probably go on the consent agenda and that for next month. Because of it just being their own policies and their own ordinance provisions, there's no effect on our comprehensive plan. They're basically doing what they wanted to do in their ordinance, so I have no problem with this. A lot of them are very similar in that to what we've got.
The Jewish rooming house, I looked, there's pretty much what we have. The Jewish rooming house, even there is pretty much what we have in section, yeah, I mean, it's pretty close to what
We
we.
go through their planning commission and then, go
Yeah.
through planning commission and town board, so. Yep.
We're just more of a pass through, we just kind of check it.
Yeah. They're not quite as formal as St. Croix Falls is, where we get an actual resolution number and documenting that for a passage, so it's just a motion.
So unless there's any questions on that, we're getting motion to move this to the full board.
I'll make a motion to move it to the full board.
Tracy. Any more questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Clear, that one moved. Now.
I'll keep it brief.
Thank you.
Yeah. Read it. I'll see you next week.
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
Pretty much just, right, kind of the goals set for next year. With a little bit of extra. One up too, Bob. You can kind of jump to page 4. So yeah, goal number 1, establishing super sales for over the DNR set 15-year average, 404 acres. Currently, we'll change every year, but that's kind of the goal. So we're looking at about 5 timber sales to sell next year, going into the spring. Next goal, page 5 is the administer all full timber sales, roughly about 15 sales I have sold right now, some near a decent amount of them, 5 maybe near completion or at completion, so we'll be closing out soon. So looking at a workload of about the same next year. So sales. Goal number 3 is keeping all of our inventory information less than 20 years old for forest reconnaissance. Going into page 6. Kind of the timber stand improvement side of things for tree planting program. So we'll be discharging and chemical spraying approximately 100 acres in Sterling in preparation for 2024 spring planting. So that's like that to take done next summer or fall. And I'll be ordering trees here in the next month that will be sowed for 2024. And then goal number 5 is additional 50 acres of removing hardwood competition on some of our established jack pine, red pine stands that we're having issues with. Goal number 6 in the reforestation part, doing some more blade care, buying roughly 50 acres of natural jack pine for natural jack pine regeneration. Kind of the forest protection side of things. Some of the stuff was what Mark kind of had in the works, and I'm not sure exactly where it's at, or it might be some improvements, but the road inspection process in GIS, continuing to treat buckthorn, covered in pine walls. Yeah, kind of for next page on 7, on forest roads, gas tax, Sag Creek Roads had yearly maintenance issues, so just going to try to address that to get to where it's not having to be a yearly issue. I'm doing some road work on that, which is if you have state funding. And then yeah, recreation, obviously about a quarter recreation, so continue to support ATV, TV access and safety. Working, just trying to figure out updating some new forest ordinances and making sure our website and code and everything is kind of fluent for people, user groups to be able to use. And then yeah, assisting with PK, film that. Kind of in the back, we got your area permits, public issues, signage is a big thing I want to work on. Just with a lot of ATV routes and everything that we have going on with a lot of user groups, especially in Sterling Township, like the gate property. Yeah, the County Forest Association meeting is going to be going on next week, but continue to do that. Forest certification, make sure we're still there. Yeah, update the forest plan as needed. Been working on some easements and stuff like that. Currently, hasn't been anything like short time here come up for any time soon. So then yeah, continuing to apply for the grants. I'm going to be doing some more. Yeah, that's about it. You guys have any questions? What I had outlined, what plans for the plan?
Pretty aggressive with 13 goals.
Yeah. There's probably
You
I got
maybe
30
drop,
in my head.
you would have dropped number 8. But
Right.
yeah.
Oh,
But I mean, I.
Give it up. You're fighting a losing battle. Mainly because the DNR guy isn't controlling his either.
Losing battle.
Yeah. Otherwise, yeah, it sounds, hopefully we help you on the roads. We left that money in the budget. Did we, for some money in the roads to there?
We did for this year.
Oh, we did?
We're doing a little bit, yeah. So I'm trying to do some TLC this fall. And then, yeah, we should have enough to.
I think we started with like 3,500. Yeah, like to pick some up.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. But some of it, yeah, I mean, like, that helps cover maintenance, but like when we actually have to do complete fixes, that culverts and costs can get added. Sure. Yeah, and that's kind of what I have identified. There could be.
So at 13, you're gonna get at least 9.
What's that?
13 goals, you get up to 9 at least.
Yeah,
Yeah. Because
Well, I had like, I think I had like 100 in my head, but 13 is what I have like.
Play it safe.
Yeah.
you didn't walk
A lot of
enough.
micro goals, daily goals.
That's high, yeah, you didn't walk enough to get that.
Yeah. Yeah, is there anything else?
No, I think it's, I think you're doing good, yeah.
Okay, so I'll need a motion to approve to.
Your work plan for 2023, yes.
I make the motion.
Or a motion.
Doug made the motion, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Sharon will second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Hey,
It
unanimous.
needs to get moved to the county board.
Yeah, we'll take care of that. Yeah.
Put it on the
Statutorily,
unanimous.
Yeah.
The consent agenda, so you don't have to come
Yeah.
and fight it there.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Because they'll ask that SFI.
But you can start and you say you don't know and you be back.
Yeah. He doesn't want to help do the rewrite that we went through.
15 more years.
Yep.
15 more years. You're still here. We'll do it again.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Bob is up.
yes.
Yeah, the air conditioner's working.
Yeah, this room is uniquely cold in this building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'd rather open more.
Yeah, exactly. Coming back.
Oh,
Yeah, I'll just- I just saw, yeah, we saw that.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
good that you're here.
Yeah.
It applies to you as well. 9A, I'll just give you a brief update on the comprehensive trail network plan. The ATV UTV intensive park, 30% of the conceptual design is complete. And that's what you see up here. It's a little hard to read. But the red, the top here, note it's all one way. This is your beginner course. And then in the green is the larger, more intensive part of the course. Again, it's one way. There's some grade here, so it provides some relief and some challenges. This is actually the challenge course that we have designed. This has a lot of grade, and centered in there is sand. There's also a two-way entrance off Evergreen, and this right here, this trail is connected to the existing 6-mile loop that's out there as well. No longer in the concept, we took the amenities out. I think we talked to you about that last time. We're gonna apply those resources to the existing ATV, UTV campground, the new bathrooms, the parking, etc. We also rerouted, as you may or may not know, the equestrian trail. We're kind of trying to create a little bit of space here and just move them a little bit over here. There'll still be a right of way. We plan to fence it as well. Again, with that connection to the loop and access off Evergreen,
we hope it gets utilized. We're looking at construction in the spring of 2024. We've increased the footprint. Originally it was 40 acres. Now we're expanding a little bit to the parcel to the south to include additional 20 acres. And we learned we have to do a cardinal blue butterfly survey next spring. So that's going to postpone.
Who required that?
Yeah. So we did it for the
Can they come up
40.
and Do something for us, can they come up and do it?
Yeah,
Oh,
good luck.
you and our guys come up and do this for us. Aren't you glad you stayed?
I think that's a big step.
Obviously,
They have to do the survey to be
No
eligible for
mandate
the,
stuff, but they would help us do it, okay, that's, you know.
again, to apply for the grants, we have to have the survey done. And we learned also, Jack Pine, who punched through earlier this year. We failed to do the KBB survey for that. We will need to do that before we can apply for grants to subsidize that project. That's something
So
we
that,
learned.
will we be able to do that yet this year?
We will not get the project with the expenditures that we paid for this year subsidized. Because we have not done
But will we be able to do
that.
that?
In the
soon?
future, yes. And in actuality, for this 20, grant deadline is due April 15th. We've been told in writing from the DNR. If we have proof or a letter of intent to do the KBB survey on this 20, we can still apply for the grant for the project going forward. So that is good news.
What's the KB, what is that?
It's the Cardinal blue butterfly.
That butterfly, yeah.
So we're actually, because we reduced the scope of the work for our consultant, SEH, not asking them to design the parking lot and the restrooms and so forth. We're going to do that on our existing campground. It brought down the cost of that scope, and so we're going to add on to that scope with that credit that they do both KBB surveys for both. This 20. Still seems good.
And they're all kind of good.
Yes, yes, they are. Later in October, and just got clearance from Vince, it's like Grant, Mo, Rod, and I, we're gonna walk the property, we're gonna walk the routes with our consultant, and we'll flag it. So we'll know, well, first of all, we'll make sure each loop is viable, and then the consultants will flag those routes for us to build in summer, spring of 2022. That's our next step, is the site visit. The 60% design is due November 11th, and we'll bring that for you. The site visit is critical because, again, this is conceptual. We go out and do the site visit, sure it's viable. That allows our engineers through SEH to bring forward a more detailed final design of 60%.
The GPS, you walking lines and stuff, you walk, you do that.
Well, we'll get to that. We'll do that in-house. That'll do that. I'm not sure if SEH will be doing that.
You say 2024, 2023.
2024, but you meant 2023. 24? Oh. Okay.
Plan. That's the plan. Any questions? The next part, I think I just want to share with you was the, let's see. Oh yeah, the trailhead restroom in St. Croix Falls, you know, and the terminus there, the Gandy. Let's see, we received their engineer plans from the city, September 12th, which was 2 days ago. City council authorized the delivery of our RFP. They're going to award the bids, city that is on October 10th. As you know, that's a project we're just contributing.
That this winter yet then?
Well, hopefully it is. Oh, yeah.
Small.
I think that's all I got.
We got this agreement in here between the city.
No,
Yeah, that's 90.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is an MOU similar to the same one we did with the city regarding the bathroom project. So that's a shovel-ready project. That's a collaboration between the Woolly Bike Club. We talked about them. That's a well-established mountain biking group. In St. Croix Falls, they already have a number of trails, roughly 10 miles of trails already. In St. Croix Falls, if you've ever been out there on Emma Maple, they have restrooms and place repair station. So this is what they're proposing to do is build 1.5 additional professionally built single track mountain biking trails on city-owned properties just west of the high school. If you're familiar with the high school, there's those community trails and the woods down there and there's city shop. So they're going to be professionally built. The Woolly Club has identified the builder. They're trying to create a new pull factor, a destination, a hotspot for mountain biking enthusiasts. I think they believe it will create more accessibility, more levels, beginner, moderate, and expert. Total cost of the project is $67,320, about $850 linear foot. The Woolly's contributing $10,000. Trail building contractor is named Trail Source. They're out of Rosemont, Minnesota. And if you're familiar with that area, there's also a church down below there. The city, it is highlighted in the MOU. Working on recording and securing the easement between the Woolly Club, the city, and the church to use that land for this additional 1.5 miles.
Will that kind of take the place of the walking trails that are back there?
No, they're separate. Those will still be down there. There's a separate. I know exactly what you're talking
Yeah.
about. No, they're a little bit to the north. That's why we're kind of veering out
Oh.
to the Church of the Valley
Yeah,
Church
yeah.
there. Most of those pedestrian trails will. So, it's an MOU, got vetted by, Corporation Council, looking for your approval. This is one of the 13 projects, B2, in the comprehensive trail network plan, and $50,000 were allocated.
This pretty much just gets it to move forward. Did they have a build date on this one or not quite yet? That we
I
know
don't
probably
want to speak, I
probably
don't,
spring.
I have to follow up on it.
Okay. Just wondering. All right. So this will kind of stay in the parks and stuff, this MOU, and then get whatever it has to do.
Looks like it just requires the county board
Okay.
chairman,
Get started.
signature,
Okay.
and then it goes to city council for their approval. And then-
Okay. So do we need a motion to move it on? We probably should.
I'll make a motion.
Okay. So we do have a motion. Does anybody have any concerns? If not, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? Okay. That looked.
I wanted to show you real quick, if you don't mind, so we're on topic here. The signage plan done. And we got the kiosk. You remember a couple months ago? Sharing this with you where we were going to, Parks Department was going to update all the kiosks. They're building them in-house. Claire, who you know, our public information officer, along with Brad Ruenberg, the GIS specialist, and other staff have developed these kiosk maps. So this is an example of the new Jack. This is what will be placed within all the kiosks that we have. It's we customize each one. There's new ones for campground, Blackbird, Summer. We customized every one of them. I know last week, or a week or two ago, ATV Snowmobile Club was out signing.
Did we get the sign color and all that? Did we finally do that?
The kiosk. The kiosks are just simple wood with, I think, a brown. 4x8. All our kiosks, in other words, will be updated. Then built, will be installed. Mike Minke, who's an foreman with the Parks Department, is the point. Just wanted to share. We're staying on task with updating and replacing all of our kiosk signage. Any questions on that?
No, go ahead. The BJ one is
Yeah, 9C.
9C.
Right, I think we shared with you last meeting, it was shared last night. We hired a consultant to do the feasibility study to identify 4 routes to connect St. Croix Falls to Burnett County line. SRF is the consulting group. We met with them last week. They're a different planning group. You know, we've gone through quite a few of them. Remember, Same, Tool Design, Alta. So this is the new group. They're out of the cities. We met with them. They're very much engineer focused. And their process is a little different from what we've done in the past, where we collect public input on the front end. They're doing it on the back. So what they're going to do this fall, they're engineers, and we'll accompany them. Run the trail, run the right of way, look at private easements. And they're going to come up with 4 concepts, 4 options. And then bring that to you for your input and consideration. They're going to look at constraints, gaps, intersections, grade, and whatnot. The acquisition for you to provide input. The tasks are getting done by early next year, so January 2023. So we have some time constraints. I don't know if you all know, Tim, county planner, left us, so we don't have a county planner. Yep, Tim left. So our team is really at Brentwood. And with Mo's correct.
So that'll be good.
Mo, our relationship with Mo's division is fantastic. Of course, we do the planning, they do the implementation, try to communicate. So, and Brent's really, he's only dedicated 1 day a week. So there's some constraints there. It's not that we don't have the capacity to manage these consultants, because as we've learned, it's great that we do farm this out, these planning projects out, but there is the degree of project management. There's an oversight in the staff. Ensure they're on the right path, triggering deadlines. So anyway, we have some time constraints. We have PTAG, and we have you. One requirement within the scope is there is an oversight committee or some type of stakeholder group that could provide. And so that's the question for you to consider. Do we reconvene PTAG, which by the way, since we completed the comprehensive trail network plan, I think we're roughly 40-50% vacant. Or, so that would require, again, if you recall, when we did it the first time, we put an ad in the paper, interviewed them, Vince vetted them, appointed them, couple-month process. Pointing that out, there's value to that group, but we still have to find and fill those vacancies. Alternative to that is working with you all, our oversight committee, our governing committee, and this is me and our consultants with qualitative.
So thoughts probably go through us until maybe when we end, when we need that public participation at the end. That may be.
Well, there's a public participation component to it, Cam, that's a good question.
But at the end,
That is in their scope, they still will be meeting with,
other groups, yeah.
yeah, one thing we made sure in the RFP is they met with each of the municipalities in which the trail intersects.
Okay,
That's the key, we're going to
That's the big one, yeah.
visit with
yeah.
those elected officials. There is other deliverables in here regarding, public input, they are meeting with the stakeholder group. We could still reconvene PTAG near the end there. But yeah, in their scope, there's roundtables planned with municipalities, user groups, and there's engagement component.
Yeah, so we might want to do that more towards the end than we try to fire PTAG up here without a plan or maybe.
Yeah, and
Really
I
be
mean, the
hard to
advantage
do.
is now we have the stakeholder group. So
Yeah.
we know who those people are to,
Yeah, at least get a hold of them
Yeah.
and bring in, instead of just the people at PTAG, they could bring in more people. If they want.
Yeah, and
You
I
know,
think,
Yeah,
yeah, like Bob said, PTAG is, depleted to a certain extent. And part of that task was to create a group that was balanced and could look at all perspectives and come to a consensus. So if we go back to the PTAG process, it means selecting another group or adding to that, making sure it's balanced. Or do we just have, and then they, when they review something, then they bring it to you for approval? Are we better off in this case, since we're gonna be getting public input through the consultant, to just have it come to this group?
that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, and
Come
skipping
here,
that
Just
process.
skip that middle
Otherwise,
part,
they finished their mission and now we'd have to recreate it.
have to recreate a new mission, everything for their,
and we're just following through on, this is just following through on that.
on that, yeah. So I think,
On
yeah,
one project on that.
Yeah, one project, and if there's time constraints, I need a short window.
then to try to put that all together and have that much busy work going on, so.
Yeah, and then, you know,
Probably by consensus, it'll come to us.
Yeah, I think you're right.
you'll, okay, I can let them know, we'll,
Yep, it'll come to us. We don't have to fire people up yet. That should help them too a little bit. Because what did you say to get Tim replaced, that'd be till June anyway.
that's, yeah, we're trying, you know, you saw the budget presentation, so.
Some of it.
So. The earliest. You know. Middle next year.
Yeah.
Oh, you can hear me.
We're going on, right?
Yeah, well, budget with no numbers.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. 216 Act, what is this now?
Move that to next,
Are we gonna move that to the next?
move that to the next one, because I haven't completed the draft resolution yet,
Okay,
but it'll still be in time before the
that's
October
it.
town
right
board.
here. We're gonna move that 216 as the tax. deed.
Oh, I got the.
And what about D?
Consideration of procedures when pursuing compliance.
Well, it's,
But that was on, that was not on last month.
on this, no, it's on this one too.
Yeah, it's on this one.
We do it, okay, let's dive into that a little bit with Jason. Maybe. We had, well, who else got the call? Anybody got calls on the complaints or just me? Yes,
Oh, on the.
and Jason and everybody,
On the first room.
well, and there was another one. Okay,
Oh, I didn't hear it.
No.
oh, we haven't yet. I'll get your numbers out there.
No.
I'll get your numbers out there.
Pony Express is still coming to Clam Falls. They're
Yeah.
working their way up.
We'll get your numbers out there.
Just wanted to share with, I thought the reason it's on here, I just wanted to share with you internally, Jason and I are working on a procedure. When we work with violators or potential violators and finding complaints. And we're trying to be proactive, reflecting on the public comment earlier today. I think we do a good amount of outreach and, it's really up to someone's, their property owner and the running a business, they should know the conditions in which their permit is. So, there's that.
But do we, but I was gonna ask Malia too, I mean, we do have a process when the zoning administrator does, or anyone goes out there. We do have a process
We do.
that you go to the Board of Adjustment. and do that, and these people want to circumvent that.
Yeah.
Well,
It is be considered an administrative appeal, would it not?
Sure, yeah, that is
Okay.
that is the way,
And we have a procedure for that in our policies. do we not?
yes, in the
Okay.
ordinance.
So these people are coming up and saying, but it doesn't apply. to me."
Right.
Well, it,
You know what I'm
There- there-
saying? How they say the tourist rooming house one, okay, it doesn't apply. Okay, it got kind of reworked, so we fixed that a little bit. Now we got the next guy coming. I built without a permit, but I didn't know it because the county didn't come out and tell me how to do everything.
right, so the.
Bizarre. I
The
mean,
the defense would be latches, right? So in a case where, let's say a citizen said, I came into the zoning office and the zoning administrator told me I only needed to do X, Y, and Z. I did X, Y, and Z, so it's their fault. I mean, there's two competing provisions in the law. One is the obligation is on the property owner to know the laws and to make sure that they're in compliance. The other one is I relied upon, information provided by the apparent person in apparent authority to my detriment. And so I shouldn't be bound by the rule as it exists. So, and those are both valid arguments, and who would win it at the end of the day is a, question for the court.
but it shouldn't come to us. That way.
Sure, like, so you're
I mean,
saying
they-
this committee shouldn't be a.
They want to
appellate
come
body.
to us and them. which
They can
do in
certainly
public
come
comment.
here and, right, speak during public comment and provide input so that if you wanted to modify the ordinance in the future to change things because it wasn't being, it wasn't helpful as far as pursuing the goals that you thought it was going to pursue. Obviously, anyone can come here and speak during public comment, yes. But
Okay.
this would not be.
But they want to
certainly
come here
a-
and say, okay, change, and we've had that before. Such as people mitigate on the storm and
Right,
cut the trees and stuff. And we said, okay, go here, we will look into it. But
Right.
they think we can take and decide the fine. They don't have to pay it. Is what they're trying, right, that's what they're
right.
asking.
and you would
Change
have
the
to-
ordinance so we don't have to pay it. Is what they're asking.
Or asking for each situation to be assessed differently.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So assess mine differently than you would assess Doug's because of X.
Yeah.
No, it has to
See,
be.
that's, yeah, that we're trying to
Yeah.
get it, because internally. It's a lot of turmoil over there. Because I mean, you go out to a citation and they call every supervisor, they call Vince and say, go down and, hey, they can't be writing citations, what's wrong?
I mean, that's one of the things we're trying to limit, or we can't prevent it, but we're trying to
Yeah.
limit the amount of phone calls you get, Francis gets, Leah gets. We want to be consistent, and we want to follow the intent of the ordinance as you all worked on and adopted. And really, this is our internal policy. When we get a complaint, it's our policy to investigate and try to resolve the issue before a citation, before we get down the line. We receive the complaint, we go out and validate the complaint. There's no complaint, we move on. There's no violation, we move on. If there is, we communicate with them. We want to define how many letters we need to send them before we get to the citation process. So we want to be consistent. We have a lot of young staff. And we want to do a better job in outreach and educating the general population what our ordinance means, what it is, what's illegal, and what's not. And because of just the pure volume, we keep hearing us say this. Lisa said a couple times a day, I keep telling y'all, the volume of complaints that we get. Sometimes it's difficult to find attention, find the time to be attentive to them. And to be honest with you, a big constraint, and we brought this up too, is beyond zoning. I don't think, Corporation Council has the capacity to help us beyond the citation process or the administrative appeal process. So that is a constraint. So what we've come up with, and this is internal, this is something Jason and I can do in terms of a process for not only our staff, but our residents, finding compliance. One of the things that we thought about was, what is a serious violation and what's not? What we did is, you don't mind, Jason, we haven't spent a lot of time on this. We're just working on this here. The number is a list of priorities that we think are highest below. We just want to run this by you. Maybe things need to move or down, but obviously, if there's a violation that poses dangers to the health, safety, and welfare of the residents, that's the priority. That one we address right away. If we see something that's in the construction phase, like the example you brought up earlier, that's something we need to pay attention to. Complaints. Reactive, again, we are complaint driven. We don't go around looking, trying to catch people. We're a complaint driven department. That's number 3. When Jason's out doing an inspection, he might see a violation. That's 4. If it impacts wetlands or stormwater. We get a lot of these. We get multiple complaints on the same property. There's your repeat offenders, junk violations, etc. So this is kind of what we're getting at, is we're trying to prioritize the violations and which ones deem the most serious attention, quick attention over others. So I just wanted to share this with you and get your thoughts if you have any. Is there one of these violations should be a higher priority than others? I don't know. And while we're doing this, this is internal, us to work on. It's really about our young people. They know.
Well, with the tourist rooming house being about 30%, right? Man. Looking at that one too. That's why I don't think we should hand these permits out that easy. We postponed and did some of this. I mean, that's why we have to.
So do we actually get tax money back from the taxes that are collected on tourist rooming houses? This is kind of a.
Something came around, they look at room tax. So
Yeah.
this looks to me like it's more at the municipal level.
That's why the hotel motels, like
Yeah.
the stadiums and all that charge. I don't know.
Right. It was
It's
just a
limited
change.
on what it can be used for.
Yeah, the change allowing the room tax was a modification in the law that just occurred this year. And it does say municipalities, so we need to determine whether or not, because sometimes in the statutes, municipality includes county, but oftentimes it does not. So I haven't looked.
Find that out, yeah, because we're not listed.
But that would be, because it talks about a license.
Or that
And,
in a
and,
number, yeah.
right. But, just to piggyback onto what, Bob and Jason have to do and their staff. They're very much, like law enforcement in a way where they've got to discern, they've got to make discretionary decisions. Is this person going 75 miles in a 55? Do they deserve a ticket or a warning? What are the circumstances? Is this violation blatant and knowing? Is this not? How much how much discretion and leeway and time do we give them to correct the violation? Was it their fault or was it the fault of, let's say, a bad renter and not really the fault of the owner? All of those things, are things that they have to sort of make judgment calls on. And so anything that you can put in the ordinance, like purpose or focus, or even if the committee said, we're more concerned about tourist rooming house violations than we are about, I don't know, junk car violations right now, because that's what the constituents are calling. Then they can say, okay, well, we're going to put more attention on those priorities than other priorities. Not saying all violations aren't important to investigate, but when their time is limited and their resources are limited, having that direction from you guys is helpful, because then you're not getting the calls and then calling them and saying, why aren't you focusing on this? Right? You've given them their margin.
Yeah, that's a great point. And just having your support, allowing us to do our jobs and pursue these is really critical. You really need to have your support.
And then the message, how you message to the people that are filing the complaints is important too, because if somebody's filing a complaint, it's obviously important to them. So, being able to communicate to them to say, it's on our list, or I don't know how you say it, but so they aren't expecting you to get back to them in 3 days if they've got a junk violation.
Well, and kind of adding on to Sharon's though, I guess for us as a, on the town level, if we're calling because we have county zoning, if we're calling to say, okay, so-and-so has X amount of vehicles in their yard. I mean, the anonymous part of this is kind of, you're complaint driven. So the anonymous part of it would be a huge help to us, because we don't want someone then coming to our office going, okay, you turn me into the county. Well, technically that's our job. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying you're doing it, but just the whole anonymous piece, that would help you guys out in the long run too, because then more people could open up to you and not be, maybe pitting neighbors against each other or, whatever. That was something that was brought up, in a past, whatever, but, that too is a huge thing.
Get like a DNR number, poachers. That's anonymous. But then if you get to court, what happens there? Say somebody complains it's a junk car. The guy comes in and goes, who complains? It's in my back porch. You can't even see him from the road. How do you even see him?
Well, that's another issue too. They have to investigate and have then some type of direct personal knowledge. We can get a special inspection warrant if it really is somewhere you can't see from, let's say, the driveway or the
There's a
lake.
lot of spots that
Yeah.
you see it on the deal, all of a sudden there's 40 cars.
Oh, yeah.
40, yes.
So again, in those cases, if there was an application for a permit, then, their staff have the authority to go out and
But this
look.
guy would say, no, I don't have them.
So
How
then we
would you
would-
even know?
We would say, well, we got a complaint, I would take the information in front of one of the judges, just like law enforcement, when they want to go into somebody's house because there's a complaint about it smelling like marijuana, right? Hey, we've got a credible information that causes us to believe that this person has all these cars in violation of the ordinance. Let's get a special inspection warrant and go check it out.
Well, I would say this about not letting anybody know it. Sitting on the town board, I think there's that big of a complaint or an issue. I'm not gonna have a problem saying who it is. Goodness knows, there's a lot of people who have told us as a town board what the biggest complaint in Clam Falls is.
Buckler.
Buckthorn, yes. But our biggest complaint over the last 15 years is zoning approved by this committee. And it's legal. I really get concerned when everything can be anonymous.
Yeah.
At a certain point, if it's that bad, hey, I'm just gonna call in and say, here's what O'Connell's doing. He's putting a sewer in illegally in Clam Falls again. Another one.
But I'm pretending to know.
Yeah, or we took all the swings and slides out of Clam Falls. Crazy. So I think if it's that big of a deal, if it's me as a town board member or me as a citizen, I should be able to call up and say, hey, Jason, here's my name. Here's what Tracy LeBlanc, my neighbor, is doing. You know, you should check into it.
I'm sure it goes both ways, but
Yeah.
if it wasn't anonymous, he'd probably look into it more than anonymous. If it was just I mean, if it was more minor. People
Right,
do
but
it
I
just,
mean-
they're mad at the time, you know, you got 2 extra cars, and I'm mad at you today, they call
Yeah.
it in. So that happens too, you know, and so now I get caught, I'm gonna turn you in. I got a
That's what
wind
we're
wake,
at.
that's what happened.
Yeah,
I got
Yeah,
caught, so I'm
it-
gonna turn you in, yeah, so
Yeah.
then it turns. But, I just think, yeah, we should keep priority, but we should back them when they're out
But
there
I think-
doing this.
I think one can tie into tourist rooming houses, can it not? I mean,
Yes,
even
I
though
think
that
it
is our
can.
biggest complaint, it can certainly tie into that without naming it specifically.
So on
Yeah.
the tourist rooming house side, and then what we've got going on right now is other competition, other operators, and that they're competitors. And so they are reporting to us saying, here they are, here's exactly the link to their website ad, here's how they're violating their conditions. I mean, it's black and white. And we have issued cease and desist orders because of number one there. If I'm a tourist and I'm going to this place, I'm assuming that I'm sleeping in a legal bedroom. I assume that, you know, my health and safety has been UDC inspected, you know, and that through that process. So that's why we've issued cease and desist letters.
Well, I went down.
We
on
do
that.
accept all complaints as anonymous, but these short-term rental operators, they don't care. They've been in writing, a lot of them. And so then they can, of course, file a public record request and they can get all of those complaints back, and that, which they have. So I don't know of any violations right now that we haven't followed up on. You know, some of them and that we followed up on in the past and we keep on getting complaints, but there's maybe no violation there. And so we don't have an issue with those. But that's, we're currently, in that sense, Dana Fry was here, and that we've been told that we're basically just like a sheriff's office, and that we are duty to take and follow up on any complaints, whether they're written or whether they're verbal. And they can be completely anonymous. So, but like public health, Brian Hobbs, I mean, that's kind of hitting that number one pretty hard too. And that those all have to be in writing, and that is how he administers. So
I can see why you have to prioritize. You can't do everything. I mean,
Yeah.
When you go on that website, I read, there's 2 bedrooms that sleep 13 people. In Polk County, I went to the Polk County. 2 bedrooms sleeps 13, 5 bedrooms sleep 17. I mean, I started going through this one. Polk County, holy man, what's
we
going
don't want
on?
that on the
Maybe it's a
website
different
because
Polk County.
if you don't have
Yeah.
enough space, just call us because our house is only three houses away and we
Yeah.
have plenty of room there. And they aren't a tourist room, so I've seen that on the website.
So, but, I mean, this is a good conversation because as staff then, you know, it puts us in a rock and a hard place, okay? Because we've got somebody that's, you know, blatantly violating through their advertisement.
Yeah.
And then we've got somebody that's made themselves very aware of the ordinances and is complying, and
Yeah.
that the complainer.
Yeah.
And so now what is our procedure is what we're seeking, and that Bob and I internally, and that for handling that, they can make sure that everything is balanced.
Consistent.
Because if we have too much procedures or too many warnings, and that they get by with
Yeah.
parties and they get by with too much occupancy. And that now that guy over here, he's gonna be like, okay, well, here's the process.
Yeah.
That's a bad thing about creating a good process is in that if you're gonna be uniform to everybody, and that then the other people and that also see the process. So if you have a too lenient process, then that everybody will violate just a little bit to get by with it. But if we have too strict, and then we get calls and that you get.
Yeah.
So that's where, you know, especially our new staff and that needs to have a clear procedure and that going forward and that so that we're on solid ground and that we are treating everybody the
That's
same.
fairly,
Yeah. And we're still gonna get the people that's gonna call us, no matter what, because they finally got caught. You know, so. All right. Well, that doesn't look good. That's a good start. I mean, it looks
Yeah.
all right.
Well,
That's a good
We
start.
got another slide.
Okay.
Well, we'll just be real quick about this. Criteria for establishing a priority. Well, these violators, listed below, if they exceed more than one of these, then they can move up in the priority. That makes sense. If they're deliberate about it, and they cause some economic harm, well, they're moving up. This is some criteria for, some flexibility within the list. If they're getting significant economic benefit from continuing their violation, like a first rooming house, continue to operate beyond capacity. The violation has existed uncorrected for a long period of time. They got a history of complaints. So those repeat offenders. There's a community interest in the violation. Expressed by the recipient of multiple complaints from several individuals. This is like problem child here. After reasonable efforts have been made, there's little or no likelihood of being involuntary compliance. Or if they're just flagrant about it and it's visible. So this is some criteria. I mean, if a violator meets more than one of these, they're moving up the list as well. So I just wanted to share this with you because we're thinking about it, actual step-by-step procedure rather. I think Jason and I find a nice procedure for us to use and implement internally. Yeah.
Could we implement that as a policy? Yeah. So you're back
It'd
to
be
a little
helpful to
better.
have something.
You know what I'm saying?
in
If we get this established and then
So
we can make it a policy and so it's.
similar to when judges say, well, here's the sentencing factors for this person I've just convicted of a crime, and these are the factors I need to consider. You could put these factors right in the ordinance so that it's clear. These are the factors that determine, how quickly you're going to move from, we're going to work with you to gain compliance to, we're just issuing a citation or a cease and desist, right? And so that then the public would be aware of what factors are used to determine how egregious their violation is. I think that's a.
So there's a way to add it.
We gotta be careful too then. What we do is we have staff who they have judgment. They have to make judgment.
That's why I thought a
What I don't
policy
think
would be
this
better.
can do is give an out for somebody. In other words, somebody might look at this and say, well, our policy is this, but because I'm looking here at the criteria and the priority, I'm going to treat them different. If we write it in policy and say, this is what we do, that's what we do. If we want to change the policy, we can. But this does not give us the liberty to treat you differently
No.
than him. We got to treat everybody the same.
Yeah.
But if you're overworked and you have priorities, there are going to be times when you have to make a judgment call to say, this is going to be our focus, or we're going to take this action against this because it isn't, be more urgent.
But I think treating everybody the same puts us on the right footing too.
Yeah.
To be able to say one tourist rooming house didn't get this, another one got this, the third one got something completely different.
Or one person got a, 3-letter warnings and one person got a citation right away.
Yeah, so I mean, it's
Yeah.
like, okay, is it a warning and 6 months later it's pulled, or is it pulled the first, the first day, whatever it is, it's just boom, there it is.
Right, and I think that kind of thing is more for their internal working policy.
This
That
part.
way, when somebody says, well, how did you decide? And you go, this is our internal, and we treat everybody, similarly situated people the same way pursuant to this internal work.
That's why we thought we'd share with you. This is what we're thinking, and it will help us in pursuing compliance.
I just wanted, that we get a policy and kind of, and people know that you have one.
Well, again, go to slide 1 if you don't mind.
that we do have something in violations and stuff.
That's slide one. This is our policy.
Right there. Okay,
You don't ignore complaints.
no,
You put them on a shelf. Jason and his team go out
Oh,
and
yeah.
validate the complaint. If there's a violation, then they pursue it.
Yeah.
Through education, through outreach, through letters, and then the citation process. The violator always has administrative appeal.
yes.
We're getting to the point, yeah.
That it gets this far and you're still.
I do think though, our administrative appeal process, because of the high costs, it's basically the same as paying a forfeiture.
Yeah.
And then if they lose, then they have to pay that and then still the forfeiture. That's where I think
Some of them,
it's
yeah.
saying it's due process, but saying it's gonna cost you as much as a forfeiture. That's where I think there's some issues.
That's the same and go in front of the judge, it's cheaper to say, yeah, I'm guilty, what the hell, here's $50. If you fight it, it costs you $5,000. Yeah, they differ.
Some cases.
You know what them lawyers charge? So it is about the same thing. Yeah. I would still leave the numbers up there because it costs that much to have a BOA to make a decision.
Understood, but if that's the remedy, is it really a remedy?
Well, if they went through all this and you can't remedy it, then they put a line in the sand, and that's where it is. I mean, if they've tried to do all this, like it says, attempt to resolve and do all these things.
Right, if all
And the
that, yeah.
people just keep saying no or keep violating, they should have to go through that. I mean, that's just the way it is then.
Yeah, otherwise.
I mean, you can
they're
only help
just
them
keep-
so much.
Just keep violating.
They're just gonna keep violating and not care. Because then if the BOA, if they want to skip the BOA, then go right to the court system. Then they not.
Well, but they would if we issue the citation, right? So,
But if you issue a citation, can they not do an administrative appeal on that citation to the Board of Justice? Or can they go right to the court?
it would be set for a court date, so they would have to file a motion in the circuit court to stay that proceeding while they sued. I mean,
So then they get to skip that, so they didn't pay the $7.
that's again, if somebody didn't appeal,
Yeah.
right?
Administrative appeal process is more, let's say, somebody thinks that staff didn't act according to the ordinance or didn't apply a provision in the ordinance, and they want to take it and do an administrative appeal to prove their case and that before the Board of Adjustment.
Yeah.
And that could be an action that we take on, whether we granted a permit to somebody. And it could be a neighbor that says, hey, he shouldn't have, granted that permit, something like that could even go to the BOA.
Oh, sure.
But like if we issue a cease and desist order on tourist rooming house, that could definitely be an administrative appeal. And that, because if they think that we didn't follow the correct procedure in issue. Sure.
Thank you for your time and sharing them.
All right. Yes, because we're just to the next agenda. We're not having a closed session. No, because 216 was done.
No, the closed session is on the
216
floor for it.
session.
Oh, it isn't? No. Take a break. Take a 5-minute break. Get it clear out who can't be here. We're doing what we gotta do.
Her eyes are floating.
Litigation, so what, Blue Rock came through? Yeah. Oh, okay. What else would it be?
Oh, the hearing. Yeah.
This is about, isn't it?
Nothing's gonna happen. Come on.
Stretch.
There will be horses. That's fine.
There'll be horses.
In October.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there will be.
They'll be 3 or 4. Oh.
You gonna swing over, Kim?
Yeah.
Who knows?
I knew I had some. brothers.
I have Judge-
Why am I checking your pocket all morning?
One left, checking in my book, when you know, here, write it, I went, oh shit, you know, these places going, I went, oh, shit, you know. Let's do the word, I didn't have to be those.
Right. And we've highlighted
For financial resources. That we can fight.
I always ordered to success. Yeah.
I just think I go, okay, just give it 10.
Feel this is. All of a sudden, I gotta stand on this side. What's part of our system now, obviously, I mean, it becomes the whole session. So it's really hard for us. But. Well, they made it nice that way.
It's on your dime.
It's not our night.
Yeah.
Until this is resolved, it's on our dime. And I believe that just last winter alone.
I don't know. We
Road
didn't
costs,
see-
we
we saw this
estimated
on the complaint.
that we spent $4,000 just in
We
road
discovered
costs
and it's the amount
for the short time, you know, that we had our trail.
Yeah.
Because then I just, you know, last week, the County guys were out on trail maintenance on there, how many man hours, equipment, you want to help, I mean, that's a big expenditure. And yes, it needs to be done, you know, even for, you know, they're doing it, the motorized standard, just, well, I'll let her. Some of them is old, and so, you know, yeah, we. No, actually, there's something more summons for guys or. Yeah, kind of. Stuff like that, you know, I'm like, just so, yeah, I mean, right on my stuff. And I mean, you're just thinking, you know. I would. Oh, yeah.
And we have to keep dancing around. I have Joe listening. It is my daughter's birthday and I don't understand. That's not.
Well, they're doing this down to conditions as long as you don't.
Brad, why were you at the county board last week?
Say, they put it.
I know they-
One of the conditions I've been over the last.
Contract. We'd have been in Brad.
Don't worry, I heard all about it. So we're gonna change.
That's crazy. And you help work on. You okay? Oh, I got, yeah.
She's okay until the 15th. And she can put.
That.
Where I put my $4 on.
Oh, okay. I thought. Is there a here in Hay?
Yes, it's a girl.
Wow.
We sure will.
So that'll be the next couple
I
of
don't know
days.
what it is. Oh,
I've done this. I've done this scientific. And the bond was pregnant, how old late. Yes. 2 years ago, she said she was huge. I feel sorry for her. Walking on her own. Scientific room is right there. It's either the 15th or the 19th. But she hasn't announced that.
Well, I think you're gonna have to first, right?
Second, Tracy, okay.
Now we're back.
I can't reach that.
Jump. Just give it a push.
Hey.
So then there was.
Yeah.
But.
All those in favor?
Oh. I thought I did say that, didn't I?
Aye.
No. Opposed? Yeah, okay. Sorry about that. Subject matter for the next agenda.
That's Act 216 resolution, and I'll have it.
Okay. We'll leave it on the end, just in case.
So. Again, Wisconsin Act 216, this is October 5th. Regular meeting, Land and Water has a presentation, you heard about it last night, of the Beaver Mouth School president from Boston Lake.
Oh, yeah.
Land and Water would like to present on the 5th.
Are we gonna get the groundwater study results?
That's on the work plan.
Yeah, it's on the work plan.
That's right, yeah. Of
Yeah.
course, the budget,
Mm,
trail tours.
Yeah.
Going on a
fun.
Oh, we got, okay, going too fast, guys. The trail tours, so I brought it up with, Mo, because we'd have to collaborate on that, and then talk to Vince as well. We thought it'd be fair to do one in the spring and include the entire county board, because it's important that you see the recycling center as well. So we would do a big loop.
That's not a trail.
What are you thinking?
Come on.
Proposing.
That's a.
I think I would like the first weekend in July in Summers Lake.
Yep.
Just drop them off in the bus and say, walk.
It's a walking trail.
Walk the horse
I
route.
know, it's better. than
Anybody who
a
comes out
fall.
the other end with any blood left in them survive.
Well, we're gonna include not only the recycling center, but the Clam Falls Dam. So there's a lot, there's a lot of logistics to this.
It's been, we gotta go to Summers Lake, we gotta go to camp.
We're doing all the, because by then, we'll have a lot of the trails implemented. Completed. We have it all figured out on a map, where we go down to DD Candy and over to St. Croix at the recycling center, and then Atlas and Sterling and over to Summers. So we have it kind of planned that we have to rent a bus.
And
We
you
gotta
have to rent
post it.
four-wheelers. Try them out.
We'll buy your lunch too.
I don't care about lunch. We just have to have four-wheelers to buy this stuff out.
So are we using the same engineers on the Clam Falls Dam as we're using on the Summers Lake Dam?
Summers Lake. Dam.
The beaver raised that 5 feet in the last 10 years. They don't charge a thing. And they just keep holding back 150 acres of
Remember
water.
that zoning thing? Are they not their own? They're their own people. Yeah, so.
Yes, we are.
Beavers, they don't care about that.
We just hired a
That's why they have.
That's why we're the #2 growth in the county, Trace.
Oh, no. We shouldn't have told them that then. It's just, I said that bubble. That doesn't need that.
Do we have any zoning, things
We do,
coming
we
up?
got a rezone in town of Clayton,
Okay.
and then potentially Bell
Right.
Lake, you know, which is postponed or that way. That might be, oh, our unit extension agents are presenting on the 5th as well. And then as we learned last night, consideration of 2022 budget proposals, I saw that last night, so that is on October 5th as well.
So whatever's the whole department, you're gonna have what you're gonna ask them. For.
I don't know the process, I haven't got many.
Oh, she asked for everything he wants and then,
Well, in terms of the budget.
yeah,
Um,
say he wants 5 new
we will
people
talk
to
about
do.
the key priorities, I think is kind of what our plan is, to say the key priorities and I'll have a sense for what's gonna be funded, what's not.
Okay, that'll be this next meeting.
Well, maybe,
October.
it'll be for the next board meeting.
Yeah.
So now the next, just on that same thing, are we gonna have a committee of the whole, to kind of, can we reset some priorities after the COVID thing now, or are we sticking with that whole?
I think next spring.
I wanna get rid of the ARPA stuff, so let's get it over, I wanna get new priorities, how's that?
Oh, yeah, the plan, that was a 3-year effort, and we think, probably, March, April, we'll be getting into, creating new longer.
A new,
Oh,
okay, some new priorities.
We have those 4, you know, that are on the
Yeah.
roster. We'll design a process next spring. And similar to last, remember there was a survey instrument, online survey. We'll design something for that. We're a lot of topics, but. So, yeah, Chairman O'Connell, boy, October 5th looking plumb full. We have a presentation of zebra mussels, potentially the groundwater study. The ag agents presentation, they'll be here in person, by the way.
Oh,
And the budget proposal, there's 4 presentations there potentially. Up to two rezones. And then potentially Act 216, a resolution, and maybe Julio will have an update on the closed session topic item. We're looking pretty robust for October 10th.
15 seconds over to make it. There's something else that doesn't have one, so that'll save us no.
Yeah.
Right there.
You asked offline about the other counties prohibiting their swimming houses. Jason reached out to his colleagues so far.
What, nobody what?
Nobody prohibits.
Nobody
No,
from.
Wisconsin County.
No, Wisconsin. Some of the other states are starting to do it.
Washburn County got back to me, and they just defer everything through the state, through the health department. But then, I mean, you really have no really rules. And that's what they're doing. And then Marquette, they've got a licensing ordinance that pulled a lot of the new stuff in that you've seen today from, that's credit to Marquette. So, yep. That's kind of what they're doing.
It's getting to be I think as it continues to grow, because it's been growing by.
It's nationwide.
Yeah.
If you watch some of the different Minnesota channels, the resorts are really fighting it because it's killing them up north.
Yeah.
Because they're renting all the houses all around them and the resorts are empty. And they can run businesses that are private homes, but the resort, has to go by all the other rules. That's,
We got a lot of resorts just up in Sawyer County around here too, so.
that is
Yeah.
really hard on. Well, that's in our, when does our rebate start? Not till November, doesn't it? That we'll start looking at that, because I know some people, some of the counties are looking at, if you're over 6 months at that 180 days or whatever, it's gonna be considered commercial, so you'll have to be rezoned. So some of these people are gonna have to decide, are they gonna rent it out or live in it? Most of these, like this guy, they don't live there, nothing. They bought it just $2 grand.
Yeah.
100%.
And
is that a business or is that?
It's a business?
Yeah.
We may want to table this till we have it on the agenda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's something we gotta think of for when we're gonna rewrite our stuff, so.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.